Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am your host, Jose Galison, and this is Jeff. Jeff, that fat fuck. You guys know Jeff. He's one of our few furry fellas over here. Now, if you like seeing he's the kitty of the day. Now, if you like hearing my hot takes Monday through Friday about 11 a.m. Eastern, that's the goal. We don't always make it, but we try. Or if you just like seeing the kitty of the day, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you can know when I go live. Because, like I said, I don't always go when I'm supposed to. So just kind of play it by ear. So hit that bell, and we'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. I am alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
Crazy evil.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. We have plenty to go through today. We got One Nation under Epstein. We'll be kind of bringing some of those new photos, some new images that came out. We'll be covering some articles and other things along the lines of Epstein. Got Bongino Bounces. It'll be a little bit of an FBI update with a few stories going on over there. And then obviously Bongino's out, so we'll be covering that, talking created characters and conflicts. You know, the Fuentes, the Tuckers, the Candaces, we can't get away from that sort of stuff. And then also talking, kind of conflicts in there, to kind of a little bit of the hypocritical nature. You know, as we're boosting one thing, we're doing another. Just kind of completely hypocritical. And these are, problems that we've created. So we'll be getting into all of that. To start the show off, we normally start off with what I call the Icebreaker stories / clips, introductory type stuff. Usually tends to be more on the funny / gen pop side of things. And then we whiplash, do a complete 180 and go over to foreign policy, get a little bit more serious. But we always have take it a little bit of a lighter note with it. We'll get into the foreign policy, all the stuff going on there. And then after that, we'll get into the main topics I started it off with that I mentioned. And intermittently, between each, we'll say our good morning, say our hellos, check in on the chat, do all that stuff. I will let you guys know this is the last dump of the week. I don't know, maybe I'll squeeze in one for the weekend or something, but probably not. I actually have my daughter's a wrestling tournament tomorrow, so we'll be there. But in its place, I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to drop the episode I did with one of the patrons, Tilla Spook. He's actually in the chat right now, talking about Martianism, which is a form of, I guess, of Christianity, I guess you could say. So we'll get into that, and I'll try to lurk in the chat depending on what I'm doing. I'll have that go the normal time around 11 a.m. So that way it's, the time you guys have gotten used to, but I'll be in the chat saying hello and all that stuff. But yeah, so last dump of the week, I thought I'd have another one. But with that though, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the icebreaker type stuff. Starting off, the icebreaker stuff is we've solved the problem. I know we got all this stuff with Venezuela going on, the drug war. Here's the fix right here. Apparently, scientists have genetically modified tobacco plants to create cocaine. So, problem solved, guys. We can all be yacked up on the yayo, and we don't have to go to war with Venezuela anymore. Completely problem solved. Completely solved. Hell, we've got all these tobacco farms around here. Just boom. Now the cocaine. Tobacco's going out anyways. Tobacco's out. Cocaine's in, baby. New era. Let's go. It's the era of the cocaine. We'll get those prices down, get them back to the old school booger sugar, to where you don't have to worry about that, what am I trying to think of? What the hell's that drug they put in it now? Fentanyl. We don't have to worry about the fentanyl anymore, so just be a good time. It won't break the bank anymore, so, lives won't get destroyed like they do now, hey, cheap cocaine, good cocaine. What's no war? I don't see the drawback. Obviously, it's a little bit of a joke. I would not recommend you guys get hooked on cocaine, but it is ridiculous. For those who, I guess a little bit of a side tangent here. For any of those experienced in, I guess, the drug game who have I don't know, dabbled about as I have, you do know cocaine kind of gets a weird rap. I don't know. Maybe I'd be curious you guys' thoughts of that chat. It's always weird when cocaine's like included as like one of these like hard drugs, which I guess considering the fentanyl and like the crack but actual legitimate cocaine, like I don't know. I'll be honest, I've done it a few times in my life. It was fun. But it was like, at least for me, I don't know, I was able to do it once, and then, or at least, I've done it a few times, but it would always be like, I'd do it, and then it'd be like, I wouldn't see it again for another 6 months, a year, whatever, so I never like got like hooked on or anything. I didn't really even see how someone could get hooked on it. It's too goddamn expensive. It's also like you're exhausted the next day. It's more for like if it's a party thing. I mean, it's just kind of a Red Bull, a dope-ass Red Bull that essentially kind of, so... I obviously don't do it, though. I'm not saying anyone should do it at all. I mean, maybe there's something to be said about having a realistic conversation about these drugs. I do think some of the Dare era fucked us over big time, I think. And so you have people like me who probably did way too many drugs because when we were told little kids, we were said every drug is a devil. It's the worst thing ever. And then once you start dabbling in the drug world, you're like, oh, this shit's not that bad. What are you talking about? Cocaine? Whatever. I can do this and not touch it again for a long time. It's a fun time. All it is allows me to drink a little bit longer. It makes me a little more chatty with my lady. Just fun stuff. Then you start getting into some of the darker stuff, heroin. I never got into heroin, but opiates, things like that. And you go, oh shit, okay, maybe there is actually dark shit we shouldn't fuck with. So when you take stuff that's like not really that bad and you make it out to be super duper bad, kind of destroys your credibility. And then you end up with an era of retards like me. Moving on to the next one, a little bit of an update. A while back we had the anti-Irina stabber. We had a black dude who, because that story obviously immediately became like a racially polarizing type story. It was like a Ukrainian, pretty Aryan-looking white girl stabbed to death by a deranged black man. So it kind of took some racial legs with it. And it sure did run. It was kind of a wild story. But I recently reported this story, of Ken's story, his reporting. There was a stabber or a guy who got stabbed again, but this time it was the black guy, but he was defending actually a grandma from some other deranged guy. So kind of a positive story, put a nice spin, like an anti version of that story. Well, I guess we could never get a W here, can we? Because a little bit of an update. I meant to cover this a while back, but just kind of never really naturally flowed in. Apparently he's been arrested for punching his pregnant girlfriend back in October. So, I don't know. For every hero, there's a villain, and sometimes the hero is also the villain. So we're in a complicated world. There's nuance, but this guy was also, while he was perfectly capable, he had the honor to defend an old woman. He also lacked the honor to not punch your pregnant girlfriend. So I don't know though. Maybe she was asking for it. You never know. But apparently, here's Ken reporting on it a little bit more. Apparently, misdemeanor charges were filed back on October 19th. It says a felony charge of assault inflicting serious bodily injury was filed on November 18th, 2025, after detectives learned of the gravity of the injury sustained by her. Defendant was not located and served on both sets of charges, all arising from the same date of offense until December 10th, 2025. But the point being is apparently the victim was initially charged with a misdemeanor when he allegedly assaulted his girlfriend. He was initially charged with misdemeanor, but that was up to a felony when police realized how bad she was beaten. Police didn't locate him until after the stabbing. So this is kind of why there was a little bit of confusion and why it was like we found this later, even though it happened before. I guess point being is maybe some people were almost saying like, oh, this might have been like disingenuous reporting by some out there because they didn't report on the other thing. But it was like, well, it was a misdemeanor that no one would have probably really taken note of. But then it was up to a felony, and this was after the stabbing. So. But yeah, I guess the hero is also the villain here. We live in a complicated world. And finishing off the Icebreaker content, here is kind of leading us into our first story after our foreign policy. Here's a little bit of an interesting story. I mean, just some dude saying it. I guess it's on the internet, so it's got to be true. But let's watch this.
Donald Trump Jr. just got engaged at the White House Christmas party. Third engagement. Big ring, big smiles, big applause. And here's the part they're not putting on the holiday card. He is engaged to Bettina Anderson, the daughter of a powerful banker who personally vouched for Jeffrey Epstein, not met him once, not was in the same room. Her father, Henry Loy Anderson Jr., wrote a glowing character reference for Epstein, calling him a man of the highest integrity with an excellent reputation, helping him set up shop in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the same islands where Epstein later ran his operation, the same islands authorities conveniently ignored for years. The letter mattered. It helped open doors. It helped legitimize Epstein. It helped him keep going. And now, decades later, Epstein's enablers are still orbiting the same social circle, same Palm Beach elites, same White House parties, same family. Remember, this is the same Trump family that insists Epstein is a hoax, that Trump barely knew him, that it's all fake news. But now this, a White House engagement linking the Trump family directly to a man who helped Epstein gain credibility and protection. It's the same elite network, recycling itself, pretending outrage while quietly rewarding loyalty. Another marriage, another scandal-adjacent dynasty. Another reminder that for a certain class of people, Epstein was not a deal breaker. He was just another connection.
All right. Well, that little summation there. Apparently, Don Jr. got engaged to a lady whose daddy wrote a letter of recommendation for Epstein. So, isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? One nation under Epstein. All right. Let's pop in the chat, checking on you guys, and then we'll get into the foreign policy portion. Good morning, Tom33. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Tilla Spook. He says, "Good morning, niggers." Good morning, which that's the fine fella we'll have. I think the show should drop tomorrow. I don't know. Bear in mind, I gotta upload it, so I don't know. Maybe something will happen. I'll get busy or something, but I should have time to upload that by tomorrow. But good morning, Che Coho. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. Good morning, Daz. W3884. Good morning, Shannon Jones. Good morning, Mustache. You guys like how the timbre of my voice today? I know I should get sick more often. I think I got a little touch of something. I've been super achy. Haven't worked out the past couple days. Been feeling like shit. So yeah, sorry if I do sound a little under the weather, but I do think it kind of made my voice sound kind of fucking cool. Good morning, Mustache. So good morning, folks. I need to cook some sauce, marinara, and get a nap in. Work at 2:30. Oh shit, that reminds me. I keep having Ralph in the comments of the videos keep asking me about my air fryer beef jerky recipe. I totally meant to ask my wife. I'm sorry, Ralph. I'll have to get back to you. Keep bugging me in the comments. All I know is it was there was Montreal seasoning and there was brown sugar. That's about all I know. I know she did marinate it though beforehand. So I don't know. I assume there's got to be more than just that in there. So I know that's what I picked up from the store for her. So I'm assuming we probably have the other ingredients. So I'll get back to you on that. Attila says, disregard the supremely hard R. Well, geez, sorry, I didn't. I mean, you put it there. I'm like Ron Burgundy. The words are there. I'm going to read it, whatever. I mean, if I'm reading Huckleberry Finn and it says nigger, I'm going to say nigger. So grow up, people. But yeah, at the same time, though, I mean, I'm very, it's like, I have I don't know, whatever. I'm not doing the old, I was thinking about doing the old, like, well, I have black friends. I don't fucking care. Whatever. If someone else thinks I'm racist, I don't give a shit. Tilla Spook says, check out the Marcionite Church of Christ. Good morning, user Chathead. Good morning, Doc Shelley saying Coke was better in the day. It sure was, wasn't it? Good morning, aggressively agreeing, says Dare basically taught you how fun drugs are. Yes. Mustache says the rambling nonsense conversations that bug me about Coke. Says once my buddies found his dad's Coke was some fish scale, shiny, clumpy, wettish, best cocaine I've ever done. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Especially when there's like a little bit of a yellow tint to it. That's some good stuff. But yeah, I will say that one of the worst things about drugs is being not on drugs with people on drugs. Never fun. One of the worst things, other than that, and it probably destroys your life and your pocketbook. I mean, we're in an economy where, like, in this economy, cocaine in this economy, yeah, I don't have a drug budget. I just don't. What do we see? Scylla says, I'm representing a church here. I have to be on good behavior. Well, I mean, you said the words, I read them. All right, let's get into foreign policy. Starting off, the bill that we talked about yesterday, the bill to launch the war in Venezuela, well, that shit went tits up. Which, to be fair, though, they did move it up a day, so I assume that was probably strategic on the White House's part, or whoever's part, whoever made that move to kind of get the ball moving, because it wasn't supposed to be, I think, until today that they voted on it, and then it would be, obviously all the people out there, like the Dave DeCamps, they would have had the Ron Pauls, even maybe the Scott Hortons would have probably got the word out, Which they did a little bit. Some of them did, but they weren't in full force yet because I think they expected, the last day. And but no, the rug got pulled there. But yes, on yesterday, they voted down a war powers resolution meant to block Trump from launching a war with Venezuela without congressional authorization, as required by the Constitution. It failed in a vote of 211 to 213, with 9 representatives not voting. The 3 Republicans joined Democrats in supporting the bill, or just 3, Massey, Green, and Don Bacon. Now, those are the guys who co-sponsored the bill, so pretty much nothing really changed. One Democrat, Henry Queller from Texas, voted against the legislation, so that's interesting. It would have directed the president to remove United States Armed Forces from hostilities within or against Venezuela that have not been authorized by Congress. Before it, another resolution aimed at stopping the bombing campaign against alleged drug boats. That also failed. That failed at 210 to 216, with only 2 Republicans, Massey and Bacon, voting in favor, and 2 voting against, or 2 Democrats voting against, Cuellar and Vicente Gonzalez. But I think the interesting thing there too is, I guess, Marjorie Taylor Greene was on board with that one. So particularly kind of interesting. I guess she's which I guess that's kind of consistent. It seems a lot of these Republicans seem to be more on board with this South American drug war type thing, which I think their reasoning is like, well, this makes more sense than the war on terror, because at least these are things that are like on our hemisphere and actually directly affect us. Which, if anything, that's actually more the argument, in my opinion, of why you shouldn't fucking do it. I mean, don't get me wrong, they shouldn't do the war on terror either. But this is going to be far more close to home, which makes it pretty sketchy. Speaking of sketchy, we have Venezuela ordering its Navy to escort oil tankers after the blockade threat. We covered that yesterday, the blockade threat Trump made. But now Venezuela is escorting the oil tankers with the Navy in open defiance of the blockade, which to some degree good on them, but obviously this creates a little bit of a boiling pot type situation where things can get worse and worse. But yeah, it ordered its Navy to escort tankers carrying petroleum products from its ports after Trump declared a complete and total blockade on sanctioned tankers going into and out of Venezuela. The report said that several ships sailed from Venezuela's east coast with a naval escort on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. U.S. forces already boarded and seized one tanker last week and intend to steal the cargo. They've openly said, "Oh, we'll just keep it." If the U.S. attempts to seize another tanker, it could now lead to a direct clash with the Venezuelan Navy. Venezuela's Navy is now escorting ships leaving Venezuela with oil-based exports. Eric Sperling, executive director of Just Foreign Policy, wrote on X, "This may mean that U.S. would have to engage in offensive military action against Venezuelan forces, a clear violation of the War Powers Act and Constitution, in order to enforce the naval blockade." Venezuela's state oil company PDVSA said exports were continuing despite Trump's threat. Export operations for crude and byproducts continue normally. Oil tankers linked to PDVSA operations continue to sail with full security. PDVSA said, according to the Associated Press, some oil tankers under U.S. sanctions have begun to divert from Venezuela. In response to Trump's declaration and the continued U.S. aggression against Venezuela, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro warned the U.S. was seeking to create another Libya, Afghanistan, or Iraq. "We do not want a new Vietnam. Venezuela has been protesting, fighting, and defeating this multidimensional aggression for 25 weeks. The defense of free trade and peace in the Caribbean and Venezuela is the defense of the entire world." He also condemned the tanker seizure, saying that the U.S. took 1.9 million barrels of oil that was legally purchased from Venezuela. "We will be millions telling the imperialists that piracy cannot be accepted." So a little dicey stuff. And continuing on with this, one second. We covered, speaking of tankers, I guess we have another Air Force tanker, another one of the, for those who aren't aware of that, those are the air refuelers. Those are the jets that go up in the air, and they got basically a big old dick on the end of them that comes down, and in air, fighters can dock up to it and refuel midair. Well, another one of those almost ran into another aircraft in Venezuela because those fucking retards are rolling around without their transponders, and that's super duper duper dangerous. But yet they keep doing it. So we are once again it seems like any moment just a hair trigger away from something crazy happening there, and I think obviously that's exactly the point. Moving on to Israel, Gaza militia leader says Israel funds, arms, and protects its group. We've talked a little bit about the gladio occurring over in Gaza. These militia groups, these pro-Israel militia groups that are essentially, fighting Hamas, and ironically, these are the ones that, whenever they look for an excuse of something Hamas did that was bad, they just kind of conflate these two groups. So it's kind of have your cake and eat it too. When they do something bad, it's that's actually Hamas, and we'll kind of conflate the two. These are militia members in Gaza or whatever. Not really. I mean, they may even just lie and say Hamas, and then whenever they do something good, you're like, oh yeah, that's one of ours. That's one of ours. But yeah, this is Gaza leader Shakwi Abu Nasira. So a militia leader operating in Gaza against Hamas authorities has said his group is funded and backed by Israel as Tel Aviv continues efforts to tighten its control over the besieged enclave. Speaking to Israel's right-wing Channel 14, Shakwi Abu Nasira said his militia, known as the People's Army Forces of the Free Homeland, receives direct support from Israel. They provide us with weapons, food, drink, and clothing. We have security coordination at the highest level, Abu Nasira told Channel 14 reporter Ahikum Himmelfarb, Jesus Christ, when asked about the group's relationship with Israel. The report included footage of Abu Nasira's fighters operating in parts of Khan Yunis within areas of Gaza under Israeli military control, east of what Israel refers to as the Yellow Line. So this is essentially what they've got going on beyond the Yellow Line. Abu Nasira previously served in the Palestinian Authority security forces and was sentenced to 5 life terms after being detained by Israel in 1984. In a 2021 interview with the New Arab's Arabic language sister site Al Arabi Al Jadid, Abu Nasira described a failed escape attempt from Israel's Nafha prison in 1987. During Israel's war on Gaza, he became linked to a network associated with Yasser Abu Shabab, an Israel-backed militia leader who was killed earlier this year, as well as the mercenary Ashraf al-Mansi. Sources told the New Arab last month that Abu Nasir's association with the network drew widespread condemnation across Gaza. So Israel's backing of armed factions in Gaza has previously sparked controversy within Israel itself. In June 2025, several Israeli politicians accused Netanyahu of approving the arming of such groups without authorization. He later acknowledged supplying weapons to factions in Gaza, many of which Israeli officials have linked to criminal activity, aid, looting, and the Islamic State group. Despite a ceasefire, Israel's continued to carry out strikes on Gaza and expand its area of control, which now covers more than half the enclave. So this is kind of the point I'm trying to drive at. It's very much like reminiscent of their occupation strategy, which I guess it is their occupation strategy. Kind of like, how the settlers move in and it kind of slides. It's a sliding scale from, oh no, the settlers are doing this. Well, now here's them with like literal militia members of another militia behind the Yellow Line. So we have this Yellow Line that's seems like every other day we get some new story about the Yellow Line moving further in. And then we also have not only that little area that is, considered the Gaza area, they always also have these militia groups that they're using to enforce some sort of control or whatever it is they're trying to get through. And with kind of finishing off our foreign policy, the Senate passes a $901 billion National Defense Authorization Act, sending it to Trump's desk. It actually is truly over $1 trillion. We've been covering this kind of through the steps as it's gone through a little bit, but it's the Senate's passed it, so it's just sitting at Trump. I don't really see any reason why Trump wouldn't pass it. Apparently, he was the one that wanted the other, over $100 billion-ish, just because I'm assuming he probably wanted to be able to say it was $1 trillion. Ooh, the biggest, the best. So I'm almost certain it'll probably get passed. So isn't that great? Because that's exactly what our military needs is more money. Funny enough, we actually covered yesterday the rampant disability scamming occurring there, which not even really trying to throw too much shade. I know there's people in the chat that are on it, and I probably should be on it as well. It's actually funny. I had someone in the comments yesterday who was telling me about their, I don't know if it was their dad or grandpa or whatever, and then I guess like a boyfriend got screwed over. You do hear lots of stories of people getting screwed over too. So it's like, that's like the kind of scummy thing about this. It always seems like you do hear all these sob stories of people who are like, actually do need it, because they actually legitimately did get fucked up or whatever. And they didn't, dot the I or cross the T or have the, the proper sergeant in place to teach them how to be the scumbag to ride the system. Or they're just from an older era to where, the pendulum was the other way. And, they just get fucked. Meanwhile, we have, every Tom, Dick, and Harry who sat behind a desk for 4 years. Oh, no, my ankle. 100% disability, buddy. Got you hook the fuck up. I totally get that. It's shitty all around. It's just the state itself is just incentivized to fucking suck at every turn. All right, let's pop in the chat, check in on you guys, see what you guys say some more good mornings, and then we'll get into the main stuff of the day. What else we got in here? Good morning, Gottis. Good to see you join the show. Shabbat Shalom, Real John Doe, although it's only Thursday, but I know it's kind of my Friday since this is the last dump of the week for me. Tom33 says the Middle East wars were bad because they were fought in the desert, of course. The jungle would be totally different, totally not like Vietnam, right? Yeah, totally. Good morning, Marty McFly says, what the fuck is up? What the fuck is up indeed? Good morning, Dumpers, says John Black. It's my birthday, and all I really want Josh is to drop a hard R. Well, nigger, just for you. It's a word. I mean, whatever. Get over it, people. If you're upset, search deep within yourself and see why. Why are you upset? It's just now sounds. I did literally contextually as someone said the word, and I said the word. So if you're offended, that's on you, buddy. But just for you, my pal, just for you. It is your birthday, so all you want for your birthday is a big hard R. Fuck that. I was trying to do the what was it? 2 Chainz. I was trying to do the 2 Chainz like parameter there, or whatever the hell it is, or whatever the word is for the tempo, the music tempo. I fucked it up, so just ignore that. That was embarrassing. Good morning, long-time listener, first-time caller. The president always promises a BJ to the mic, to the MIC, and the military-industrial complex, but Congress throws in some free pussy in addition. Yeah, it's how it works. It's 100% how it works. Rotten banana bread. Rotten banana bread. I think you can just make more banana bread if you have rotten banana bread, right? Is that how that works? Because rotten bananas is what you use to make banana bread. So what do you make with rotten banana bread? I don't know. I think we found a deep philosophical question here. He's saying flow state plus Kirk plus low key plus genuinely. I have no idea what that means, but I appreciate you being in the chat. Feel free to clarify if you want to later. Next after the next segment, we'll pop back in. Good morning, King David. Good to see you here. Says, get those motherfuckers fucking likes up, dumpers. Yes, please get that like up. Hit that like button. Help a brother out. Good morning, Cubertimo. Ayo, he says. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get into the wild world of Epstein. One nation under Epstein. We got photos to look for. Sorry for the audio peeps. If people listen to this on audio, I would recommend maybe, probably the first quarter, maybe third, maybe even half of this is just going to be looking at pictures. So sorry if you're an audio listener. This is going to be fucking useless for you. But so maybe zoom ahead, maybe even go to the next segment. I mean, some of this will be talky talk, so it won't be all just pictures, but that's a big portion of this. There were the Oversight Democratic Committee or whatever received 95,000 new photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. These images raise even more questions about Epstein and the relationships with some of the most powerful men in the world. Time to end this White House cover-up. Release the files. Well, let's look through some of these photos just for funsies. There's some of this stuff that I think is obviously like people are running with like retards, and some of the stuff is pretty fucking interesting. So we'll go through all this. Here's Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein. Actually, it's not Bill Gates. Who is that? That's not Bill Gates. I don't know why I thought it was Bill. There's some God, who is that? I know that face. He's with, whatever. Someone sound off in the chat if you know who this guy is, because I can't recall offhand. Let me see. I don't know. No one's answered yet. Who's that? Is that the actor with the married his fucking stepdaughter or whatever? That's not him, is it? Not actor, director. I don't know. Whatever. There's a lady, with her face redacted out. We have this photo. This is kind of one of the other ones I'm talking about where people are like, oh my God, making a big deal about nothing. Here's a photo with Trump with a bunch of youngish looking women, with leis, around their neck. I'm assuming maybe this was in Hawaii or something, or a Hawaii themed party or something, luau, something along those lines. And every one of these faces are cropped out. And then funny enough, I've seen many people posting the original photo where you can see these women, and I mean, I don't know, maybe some of them are underage or something, but I'm pretty sure they were all of age is what I'm seeing. I haven't looked into this deeply. Feel free to correct me in the chat if anyone knows otherwise, but it kind of just seems like Trump with some youngish women. So, I mean, I think people, I don't know what the move was here, because I think the actual photo was out there. So this is the idea of them redacting it. These faces is weird. Also, even just releasing this as if it means anything. Yeah, okay, Trump is a pervert and he liked young women, and Like, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I think perhaps there's some pedo stuff going on. Obviously, we've talked about that plenty on this show, but this picture, I don't think necessarily corroborates it. This more just shows that he likes women probably in their, early 20s, 18, 19, perhaps, because I think these women probably were all of age, and it seemed like a pretty normal photo, but seems like a much ado about nothing. Here's a photo of Bannon and Epstein where this gets a little bit more interesting. One thing is people zoomed in on this photo. This is a photo that was on his desk, which, I mean, it's kind of hard to make out, but there's a face redacted there. You can kind of make out the body. It looks like a passed out woman, or, I mean, I guess it could be an adult or a boy or something, but it looks, I gotta say, it looks like someone passed out, splayed out. I mean, it really can't make out much, but something is creepy about this. And we've talked a little bit about the art that, around his place and stuff that is like, I mean, just to have like a passed out person on your desk like that, something's bizarre about that. Moving on, let's see what else we got here. Just from this one. And then here's one, Trump condoms, $4.50, I guess, that they found. I don't know exactly. I'm assuming this was probably in like Epstein's estate or something. For $4.50 is I'm huge on it. Which, okay, perhaps. From there, if you guys want to go and actually look into these yourself, you can go to the Oversight Dems on Twitter. Go find this tweet that I just read off to you guys, and you can find the photos. We're gonna go through some more. Here's a thread someone made, and so we don't have to dig through it like that, because I don't know what the latest was with that, but they have had a reputation, the feds, to essentially make every one of these info drops a nightmare to try to dig through, in the logistically speaking, how they drop them. Like I've seen, I think, which one was it? One of the drops, they made it so each individual document you had to like open up a separate, like, I don't know if it was like an image file or something. So instead of making like a PDF where they're all collated together and you can scroll through or whatever, it was like you had to upload each individual one. So, but thankfully this person put some of them together. Here's a photo with Andrew and Bill Gates. Which I don't know. Is this supposed to be in Epstein's place? Because I mean, okay, sure, they've been next to each other. I mean, obviously, I think these guys are probably both scumbags. Keep moving on. Here is, I guess, some pictures. What is this? Some pictures on the wall. Looks like, was that maybe is that Bill Gates in the bottom left hand? I mean, there's not really a whole lot. These do kind of seem, a lot of these were reaching the bottom of the barrel, or I mean, whatever. Here's one. Which is, these are a lot of things. This feels a little bit like a nothing burger, because a lot of these were stuff that were already public and they don't really mean anything. I mean, here's Trump and Epstein with some broad, I don't know who. This is Woody Allen. That's right. I was right. My head was right. I just couldn't think of the name. Woody Allen. Woody Allen is who he's with in that one photo I showed you earlier. Here's Trump with girls that we just talked about a little bit ago, although I think those were women. Richard Branson, which, for those who aren't aware, I think he had a neighboring island. Like, he owned another Virgin Island right next to him. So, and he's another like Uber billionaire, whatever kind of guy. So, birds of a feather, a little concerning. Woody again, this time on the plane. Woody Allen, you can see, from the back, a photo of him. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom into this. I don't know who those other two people are, but we got Woody Allen on the Epstein plane. The condoms again. Here's Woody again with Epstein on a set. I've heard people kind of jabbering about this a little bit. I don't know if you're a cinephile out there. Maybe you might know something, have an idea. Maybe you can identify something about this picture for the set, because I guess there's been a little bit of a debate about what movie this was on. But, we have Epstein just hanging out on a movie set, so that's kind of interesting. Although we've covered a little bit in the show some of the tangents on the degree to which he was connected with Hollywood. There's Bannon and Epstein again. Toys, which creepy. Let's see. I mean, I'm a little bit scared to zoom in on these. Creepy. Some bondage stuff. More bondage stuff. Ropes. A pussy pump. Whatever the hell that is. I've never used a pussy pump. Never felt the need for that in my life. I've heard of dick pumps. I've never used one, but I didn't know you could pump pussies. That's interesting. Some more other odd bondage stuff, which totally checks out that he'd be into that sort of creepy stuff. Crap, didn't mean to click out. Here's one I've seen go around a bit. This is one of his gloves he had, which I think it's, this obviously is in the toy type thing. Creepy. Mr. Slippy Fingers here, all ribbed for her pleasure in all sort of different ways, although I think it probably wasn't all that pleasurable if I had to guess. Here's a gag, a jawbreaker gag is what it's called, I guess. So a failure to leave. He has a warning there. Failure to leave. Never leave a person with a jawbreaker in their mouth unattended. It says failure to follow these instructions could result in serious injury or death. Looks like just a belt. Here's one with Bill and Epstein. So Bill Clinton and Epstein, which and then because that's all they have in this thread. Actually, let's see if there's anything more below this. I think that's it they have in this thread. Let's move on. Here's the same photos again. Well, here's another photo of Bannon and Epstein, which we'll get into a little bit of a tangent with the Bannon Epstein stuff here in a minute. So here's them, kind of a buddy selfie in the mirror, kind of just a. Gotta say though, Epstein looks pretty fly. Not gonna lie, he's got a nice outfit there. I've got to give him some credit. He had some style. Well, he was a fucking creep. And let me see. And then here is Chomsky, which interesting. You see, which is actually the same exact outfit. I think that's the same exact outfit from earlier too. Maybe not. The buttons look like no. Actually, never mind. You see here, I was thinking it was the same outfit. So I'm like, is this from the same day? No, you can tell the buttons on the shirt here are light colored, so it's a different shirt. But either way, here is Bannon and Noam Chomsky, which we've talked about before that he was in the book. So people have speculated a little bit to the degree of the connection there. So that's definitely interesting, especially for those. I've hung out. Obviously, like if anyone's followed this show for a long period of time, I guess if you were to color my politics, I'm like a right-wing anarchist, or depending on how you characterize these things. So I'm not necessarily like not like I've ever really upheld Chomsky as some hero, but he's kind of been more like the lefty anarchist, thinker. Although ironically, he always ends up, essentially pushing his audience to vote Democrat, despite the fact he's an anarchist. Which, I mean, there's obviously this debate to be had where I think you can technically be an anarchist and advocate for people to vote in different situations. I don't necessarily agree. I don't necessarily think it's an intelligent thing to do necessarily to vote. I think it's kind of to some degree you're kind of giving away power. You're almost better to just ignore the people. But either way, it is interesting that this guy is like a fierce, publicly a fierce, anarchist voice. Theory is kind of colored the world. I mean, there's many people. I mean, I've heard Dave Smith, reference quotes from Noam Chomsky many times because. So this is kind of one of the early people you read about, kind of as an anti-establishment figure. And it's just pretty crazy to see that he's really just kind of chummy behind the scenes. Here he is yucking it up with Bannon, clearly have told a funny joke. And this is one of the pictures dropped in it, clearly, I believe, in Epstein's estate. Here's crap, never mind. I just noticed the audio's out. Give me a second. Let me bring the video back up. But I found it particularly interesting that here we go. We have... apparently 2 months after after that photo with Bannon, here's Chomsky giving a speech on the threat of modern fashionism, where he specifically called Bannon as the impresario, as the ultra-nationalist reactionary international movement. And then so then the question becomes, why was he hanging out with Bannon and Epstein? Just kind of interesting how these things play out. But let's watch this.
Today, we are not facing the rise of anything like Nazism, but we are facing the spread of what's sometimes called ultra-nationalist reactionary international, trumpeted openly by its advocates, including Steve Bannon, the impresario of the movement.
Which is funny, because there's one way to look at this and go, oh my God, they're clearly at odds. But in a certain other sense, if your enemies are hyping you up, like if you are a Bannon, because these Bannon and Chomsky, if you understand their politics, their purported politics, you would surmise they're damn near the apotheosis of each other. The antithesis is, I think, the word I was looking for. The opposite of one another. But in a certain sense, him, essentially, putting him out there as like, oh, he's the impresario of the ultra nationalist, whatever the fuck. This is essentially giving him credit in a certain sense. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he's not aware of this, but I mean, this is the game that's played behind the scenes. To some degree, I think the rise of Bannon is probably attributed to his enemies, essentially positioning him as this big bad boogeyman, essentially making him see far more important than really he probably ever should have been. So kind of interesting how this game is played. Then meanwhile, I think like a day or two after all these photos dropped, we had the New York Times dropping an article on how he built his fortune based on scams and lies, kind of essentially pushing him as essentially a scam artist. I think they even started, I haven't read the article, but I think they even started out the article with something along the lines of like, a lot of conspiracy theorists have, conjectured about yada, 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 but we found a more, I think called prosaic, but a more like, I guess, more reasonable understanding of how he rose to power, yada, yada. Essentially a scam artist, essentially, which it's funny, but we'll kind of get into this. It's like they say that and they kind of try to provide the, here normies, here's a way to understand this without going full schizo. And despite that, you're like, well, the schizos of us out here watching this, there was a lot dropped in the article that you're like, whoa, you're creating more questions. You're not answering anything. You're not giving us this like, oh, okay, nothing to see here, like you're kind of making out to be, unless you're a fucking retard. Some of the takeaways, here's Ken Silva saying the most significant revelation from this article, in my opinion, is that Epstein was business partners with a lawyer who would go on to represent the alleged victims. So here's an excerpt from the article. According to Epstein's friend Bob Gold, Epstein and the Pottingers pitched tax avoidance strategies to wealthy clients, including some whom Gold believes Epstein met through Bear Stearns. The short-lived business partnership has not previously been reported and is especially notable because decades later, Pottinger would team up with Brad Edwards to represent scores of women who accused Epstein of sexually abusing them. Edwards told us he knew only that Pottinger and Epstein briefly shared an office, not that they were in business together. Pottinger would later say he met Epstein through a client. And it's shit like this of why I'm so goddamn paranoid. I've studied parapolitics too many damn times to see how often this shit happens where you see the defense is essentially infiltrated. It's like damn near, I swear to God, like damn near almost every single time. If it's some sort of deep event, you could almost guarantee it. There's somebody on the defense who's like fucking linked up to the establishment, and they're probably there to run cover. So a little concerning, obviously. Another revelation Ken dropped, from his reading that I thought was interesting is apparently Epstein traveled to Israel with Congressman Wayne Owens in 1989 to meet with Netanyahu. So remember, the entourage warned that Epstein was showing disrespect for his slovenly attire. I'll read this, but the thing I find interesting is the idea that he's getting ready to meet with Netanyahu, which there's other factoids out there about meetings with Netanyahu. But for those who've been paying attention to Israeli politics, I know recently, I think it was even essentially sharing drop site information like crazy stuff. Netanyahu has been essentially dropping some Epstein information, linking to articles and stuff, but kind of framing it as like the deep state's against me, kind of pulling a Trump, and really shifting all the blame off to Ehud Barak, which to be fair, Ehud Barak was mega fucking linked up with Netanyahu, and he is correct in that I believe Epstein was working with Ehud on one of his campaigns when I believe he was against Netanyahu. So to some degree, there is, I guess, like you could say, there is a little bit of a rivalry or an opposition between the two parties. But I think if we're going to be real, it's probably a little bit different than that. I think it's a little bit kind of more along the Bannon Chomsky type of relationship, like we just shown, in which even as we're digging into it, you're like, oh, you guys are against each other, but like, are they really? I don't know if they really are, but here's another example of him meeting with Netanyahu. I believe there's other information, but he's like set up meetings with Netanyahu for other people's before and stuff like that. So, I mean, people do try to obfuscate around from like, oh, no, not like, yeah, sort of Israel, but not Netanyahu. So not like the current Israel, just like Ehud, because he's like the deep state over there and he's bad. You're like, okay, buddy. Okay. But let's check into this. Epstein cruised around Manhattan in a Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. He began donating thousands to politicians and developing relationships with them. In 1989, Epstein accompanied Wayne Owens, a Democratic congressman from Utah, on a trip to the Middle East to explore ways to promote business ties between Israel and its neighbors. Epstein apparently was invited in his capacity as a finance expert, but he struck participants as out of his depth and bored. Dan Gordon, a screenwriter who was part of the entourage, says he warned Owens that Epstein was showing disrespect by slovenly attire in meetings with Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu and Shimon Peres and Saudi Arabia's crown prince at the time. So not even that. Like, as we're reading this, it's not even just Netanyahu. He's literally meeting with the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, Shimon Peres, and then so the crown prince was Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. That's a fun name. But these, but nope. No, just nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here, folks. These are the type of connections that Epstein would cultivate in the years ahead. One of Owens' aides, Michael Yeager recalled Epstein boasting about his Indiana Jones-like pursuit of hidden assets and his close ties to Wexner, which, for those who recall, Les Wexner, of Victoria's Secret fame, and also who gave power of attorney to Epstein for some fucking reason. So essentially, Epstein controlled all of his wealth, all of his everything, and apparently he used it quite profusely, quite regularly. So essentially, a lot of times you might see things, oh, Wexner did this. Wexner, was it really Wexner or was it Epstein? And that's kind of the point. Moving on, continuing on with the story, here's parapower mapping, kind of breaking it down, or Johnny Ping Gosh, breaking down this. He says, it's crazy to see people claim the new piece of Epstein on Epstein's early years is incontrovertible evidence he wasn't involved with the CIA. The most novel revelation is that Epstein pitched tax avoidance strategies with a spook Stan Pottinger of Iran-Contra, an MLK Jr. assassination cover-up infamy to the wealthy. Stan was also the boyfriend of agency gal Gloria Steinem around this time. Not only that, it looks like Epstein was literally living with Pottinger briefly post-Bear Stearns. Considering his relationship with Khashoggi and Douglas Leese, people who would be forgiven for arguing this further reinforces the contention that Epstein was involved in Iran-Contra gun running directly, as Pottinger was overheard in convos with his client Cyrus Hashimi, the Ayatollah's arms procurer and a Mossad agent, that the FBI bugged advising on how to route military shipments to Iran using dummy corporations in 1980 and 81. This is also hugely consequential info because Pottinger inserted himself into the Epstein scandal, representing 20 victims. We already covered that, but we're going to get a little bit deeper. And seemingly was trying to catch and kill Patrick Kessler's supposed compromat vids. It says interesting last name for a pseudonym, considering Wexner's close criminal Kessler ties. As people recall from 2019, there was a big New York Times investigation into whether David Boies had acted unethically during that debacle. Media went on to claim Kessler was a con man and then he disappeared. What was glossed over at that time was Pottinger's involvement, though, and all its implications, as Pottinger was actually the lawyer who proposed to Kessler that they use the videos to extract fees from the wealthy men caught in the act, raking in buku cup. Who the fuck spells buku like that? Buku bucks from the retainers. Case in point being that this is the evidence of the basically nailed on CIA asset was sharing a New York penthouse, a safe house, with Epstein in the early mid-1980s during the period when both of them were posing as Wall Street suits while increasingly entering the underworld of covert arms smuggling circa Iran-Contra. But remember, the authors and others do not want you to look at the intelligence connections. Nothing to see here. Epstein was only a confidence man who took advantage of the poor bourgeoisie's generosity. It says, shake my damn head. Wild stuff. It actually, if anything, further cemented his Iran-Contra connections that many people have spoken on before. But let's back up a little bit. Here's a fun little photo from Paolo Zampoli. I guess he met with Peter Thiel recently. Here's a photo. It says, incredible Peter Thiel, the visionary between PayPal and Palantir and a driving force in global innovation. Our inspiring conversation explored the future of technology and medicine, including the adaptation of AI for curing diseases. Peter's net worth, estimated at $26 billion, reflects the success of his early investments in companies like PayPal, Facebook, and Palantir, among others. He's truly a model for future generations, inspiring us all to learn from his visions and achievements. Now, this is Paolo and Zampoli. He's a special envoy of the President of the United States of America for Global Partnerships. So I guess not quite a cabinet position, but he's kind of in the mix. Well, who's this guy? Why am I bringing it up? Well, here's Booty letting us know that Peter Thiel's hanging out with Paolo Zampoli, one of the international sex traffickers that pimps out women and children from Eastern Europe to our civilization's greatest scholars and statesmen. He's also who's responsible for our little sex kitten first lady, Melania Trump. Says, few people are more intertwined than Donald and Melania Trump than Paolo Zampoli, a one-time modeling agent. He represented Melania in her former career, then introduced her to her future husband at a party hosted in 1998 at the Kit Kat Club. It says, Paolo Zampoli, who ran ID Models, was known to specialize in getting girls over from Eastern Europe to New York on questionable visas. One of his models was Melanesia Novs, who met Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club in an evening arranged by Zampoli. That becomes Melania Trump later. And, sorry, waiting for it to click over. What's going on here? 1 second. Jeffrey Epstein zeroed in on models and abused many who were or trying to enter the business. Says, I have a model friend who was represented by Zampoli and one night taken to a black tie function and sat next to Jeffrey Epstein, who she saw after on and off, but never got entangled with him despite his efforts. So we've covered this a few times on the show, but I never miss an opportunity to remind you. There's Booty saying it's saying the current First Lady of the United States was sex trafficked to Donald Trump by Paolo Zampoli and Jeffrey Epstein. So Zampoli has presidential paintings similar to those famously possessed by Epstein. I wonder if they were by the same artist. This political gossip column mentions Brock Pierce's attendance at one of Zampoli's various money laundering events. So plenty to dig into with him. Maybe we'll do a little bit deeper dig another day. But for today, we'll keep it moving. A little fun, a fun aside. I mean, it's hard. Obviously, it's dark and messed up, but it's, I gotta admit, a little bit funny. It says Jeffrey Epstein apparently used the name pedophiles to sign up for Trump alerts. The Trump campaign would then send emails that said, pedophiles, I want you to know how important you are to me. I'm turning to my strongest supporters, like pedophiles. Pedophiles, I'm so proud to be your president. Reads another email from Trump's campaign to Epstein, dated September 14th, 2020, and signed by Trump. This almost seems like Epstein was messing with Trump from the grave, and Trump actually signed off on these emails. So it is funny. For those who recall, I know on Twitter for a while, I don't remember exactly. I think if you responded to certain things, maybe it was Twitter, maybe it was something else, you would get these sort of automated messages. So I guess they were doing that in email stuff too for the campaign, which I guess that's a common thing. You do see those generated like political texts or whatever, or emails that people get, and they're always like swap out the name, same exact message to make it sound like it's personalized. So I guess this isn't that crazy, but it is a little funny. Moving on, we pointed at I'm a little tongue-tied. We pointed at Bill Gates and his connection to Epstein in some of these photos earlier. I figured a little bit of a aside here would be worthwhile. As Amber Speaks Up, someone we've covered we cover quite frequently on this show because she covers a lot of this Epstein stuff. Says, if Melinda's reading these files the way I am, I hope she has an army around her. Says, Epstein was bragging to Steve Bannon that Gates' young Russian affair partner was sleeping on a friend's sofa and couldn't afford groceries. And while all that was happening, Epstein was quietly working around Melinda Gates, that's Bill Gates' wife or former wife, using Boris Nikolic and Dr. Melanie Walker. Nikolic was Gates' science advisor who was friends with Epstein. Melanie Walker was deep inside the Gates Foundation as his access points, both of them reporting to Epstein like he was their handler. Nothing about the story is simple, and none of it is what the public was told. She's referring to a Telegraph piece that you guys can go check out that really gets into the weeds. Apparently, from my understanding, I think that was that was one of the many reasons she cited in the divorce. So actually it says here, this girl that she's responding to, Amber, says, I have so much respect for once someone set a boundary with Epstein. She mentioned it as one of the many reasons for her divorce. So good on her. It seems like once she realized what the hell was going on, she's like, screw this. What's the point of being married to the world's richest man if you can't bounce, if he's doing crazy, unethical things? You can. But another photo that goes hard. Unfortunately, I guess not. I guess what I'm kind of referring. Another funny thing, I guess, what I meant to say. Here is Epstein holding a photo, the book "Filthy Rich" by James Patterson in front of his face. It does legit look like a album cover, so I did have to show you that. Not that I'm trying to fawn over Epstein in any way, but it is, I got to recognize when something is this is a picture that goes hard. So, props. I'm pulling that one off, Jeffrey, from whatever fuck shack village you're living in these days. And then kind of finishing off this segment, let's check in on kind of the aftermath of all this. Does this make a difference for the world establishment? I'm not entirely sure. Here's Max Blumenthal saying, being thoroughly exposed as one of Epstein's closest friends and business partners didn't interfere with Ehud Barak's invitation to the New York Times recent Deal Book Summit. Here he is beside Sam Power and Senator Chris Coons, who had Aaron J. Mate thrown off Amtrak for asking about Gaza. So we have at a New York Times summit, which funny enough, we were just covering the New York Times piece that did the whole, ooh, nothing to see here. And just very recently, they had Ehud Barak there, who was in these photos as well, which wasn't really much of a revelation, but here's one of the new photos who dropped. Another photo of him hanging out with Epstein on the phone. I mean, they had all sorts of connections. I believe they worked together on Carbine 911 and all sorts of different little projects. I might have got the name on that wrong, but yes, they were working on weird, spooky stuff. Plenty of it, and we've covered it quite extensively on the show. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's check into the chat, and then we'll get into the Bongino story. Let's check in on y'all. Good morning, Tyler. Good morning. Says good morning, Tyler of the podcast review, Libertarian podcast review. Good morning, Mega Nerd. He said he hit that like button. Don't you forget to hit as well. Qbert hit that kite button. Please do as well. Long-time listener as well. Reminding me is Woody Allen. Yeah, you're a little late there, bud, but I appreciate it. Qbert says Epstein is chilling with Kirk and they cracking the baby in half as we speak. Yeah, you're probably wrong. Let me see. Good morning, NMO. So Daddy's home. Take his phone. Friday night. Shabbat Shalom. Yeah. John Black says put a Tyler on. I would, but not today. Maybe another day. I'm definitely down to have him back on. Mustache says Buddy's Victor's friend, Scotty's sister, babysitter for Richard Branson and was flown out to his island. She was 16 at the time. Scotty and his sister came from a super rich family in L.A. Okay, so he had a 16-year-old flown out to his island to be a babysitter. Not sketch at all. Nothing sketchy about that. And a girl that came from a rich family, too. So, which I know it sounds crazy, but that is, like, it seems to be, there's something to that. The idea that, like, I don't know exactly how this plays out, who's in on it, what families, but it does seem when you get to the tippy top weird elite, it almost feels like they're, like, doing like dynastic type, like selling off children type shit. So I don't know. Yeah. So the idea, so this like 16-year-old that came from a rich family going to Richard Branson's island, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Maybe it was completely, maybe they just need his kids to be watched on the island and nothing to see here. Hubert says none of these pictures showing anything criminal. Yes, you are. None of them really are. Yeah. But they do kind of show that the group that he was kind of rolling around with. Mustache again saying his father owned the Glendale Mill, a lumber mill. His grandfather owned the oldest bail bonds license in the city. My family uses bail bond service when I got DUI. Scott was always a little bitch. He never liked me and my talk of Freemasons and conspiracies. I wonder why. His sister definitely sucked some old man dick. Yeah, good morning, all RLB baller. Here's Mustache. Says Scotty openly bragged about his sister babysitting for Branson. When I heard about Epstein and Branson, I immediately thought of this conversation. Man, you think everyone's a Fed, don't you, Uncle Ted? You're saying Silva is sketch, Mr. Pat caught himself. Okay, I mean, whatever. I don't know. I've known Ken for a while. I don't think he's a Fed, but I don't know. Whatever. I'm not like I'm with him at all times. So maybe he is. Let me see. Did I say good morning to you already? Good morning, Real John Doe. So the tumor of the core of the disease, global body politic has metastasized a whole lot since 1948. Yup. Good morning, Marna Mac. She's saying, I just want to say hi, fuck faces. Mustache says Freemasons fighting for power. Check out Sam Tripoli's episode with Freemason. He openly spoke about infighting and Freemasonic assassinations, jockeying for power in the lodge. Yeah, I think actually even in their oath, isn't it like till death, or there's even like a specific like, if this, you can kill me that way or something. I forget it. So Ted says Epstein screams CIA, not Mossad. Yeah, I don't know. It could be either or. I think he's probably more of like a contractor. Kind of worked for both. Let me see who else we got in here. Good morning, Bug Fights. Good morning. Matzo Ball is catching up, doing that 1.5 speed. Tilla Spook says, I personally don't think Santa is real. Yes, well, he's real to me, damn it. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's get into the Bongino story and kind of making fun of feds generally. Apparently, here's Dan Bongino says, I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all those defend her. To which I said, I'm sure the pedophile elites are grateful for your service. Good luck with your show. Which is funny. I actually only put that as like a side, or whatever, and it got like 6.1 thousand likes, which nice. Toad beat me. Nice, good for him. I said leak the Epstein files on the way out, or you're a coward. I had him beat yesterday, but I did not expect it to do this kind of numbers, so I think that's a good thing. It seems like people are in agreement that fuck Dan Bongino. Me and all my homies hate Dan Bongino. I would say pay attention. If you're hanging out on social media, if you listen to some of those big shows, pay attention to those out there who are going, we got Bongino back. Oh, shit's going to get real. Oh, he's coming back to his show. Shit's going to get real. Oh. Yeah, like, okay, all right, sure. Yeah, because he's been there for how long? Like a year-ish or so and done not a goddamn thing. And you're like, right now I'm being paid to, do yada, yada, yada for the FBI. Oh, now I'm paid to talk. Like, okay, like, what? Do you not have the tiniest bit of integrity? Like, I don't know. If you're seeing crazy, awful shit, you should probably speak up and do something. I don't know, maybe. Who knows? Whatever. I'm so for Bongino redeeming himself. If he wants to come in hard, Leroy Jenkins that shit, and just fucking... Yup, I saw Donald Trump fucking diddling kids or whatever craziness. I'm all for it. I mean, I guess it depends as long as he doesn't go like crazy and it's clearly like, essentially canvassing it. But I don't know. I just pay attention to those who are overly glazing this guy. I think you can make some pretty easy conclusions from those type. Either they're just not informed enough or they're slop, or they're in on it. They're in on the thing. I don't know. If you haven't been disgusted by Dan Bongino, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't been paying attention. As Dissident Soaps here says, be former federal agent, build podcast brand talking about politics and the feds and how you'd run it, given the chance. Get given the chance. Do nothing, resign, and go back to complaining on your podcast. Shameless. Well, to that, I guess back up the point about him going back to his podcast. Here's Donald Trump. Seemingly corroborating this very idea. Listen in.
Oh, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Yeah, I do.
So there you go. Trump saying, he needs to go back to his wants to go back to show. He did a great job. So seemingly, he's going. It seems like the plan is to go back to his show. We'll see how that works. I'm sure he'll be officially boosted out the ass, but I don't know. I don't really feel like this is going to go too well for him. Here's Ken again saying it's really crazy to me that anyone thought they were going to see meaningful reforms from the guy who quit the Secret Service, right after his brother was caught partying with prostitutes linked to the cartels. So here's this is from was this Vice? I don't remember where this is from, but this is maybe it was Drop Site. At least it's Ryan Grimm, unless he worked for somebody else. Ryan Grimm and Jason Shirkus. Back in 2012, I guess whoever he was working for back then. Secret Service scandal investigation involves brother of GOP Senate candidate. It says Secret Service scandal investigation involves brother of GOP. Okay, that was totally repeated itself in the subtitle there. It says he was on the team that made some bad decisions, but multiple witnesses have said he was not part of the prostitution, Bongino said. He is not part of the prostitution investigation. Bongino said his brother has given statements as part of the investigation. When HuffPost asked why Bongino hadn't mentioned his brother was there, Bongino said, "It's not my place. Besides," he said, "nobody asked. If someone asked, I certainly would have said it. It's not my place to give up those names." Well, we're asking you about Epstein now, Bongino, and I think it's probably your goddamn place to give up some names. So be cool if he did that. I'm not holding my breath. Another from Ken, kind of lets us know that this isn't the only notable thing. He says this wasn't the only major FBI personnel news yesterday. Pennsylvania announced that Police Chief Chris Paris is leaving to join the Bureau. He headed the PSP's probe into the Butler shooting, handling the Corey Compatore murder. So that's interesting. I'm sure nothing to see here. And continuing moving on, here's Ken again, saying, "Say what?" Sharing an excerpt from this Intercept piece that we're about to read, talking about this informant from the TILF, which I was looking for a joke yesterday. TILF, teacher I'd like to fuck. There you go. I was trying to think of the stupid thing. I know, childish, but it was like right after the show, I was like, oh, I got it. Now it just feels dumb and childish to bring it up again, but I had to say it now that it was on my mind. But here is an excerpt from it. It shows the case against Crowder and McKay hinged on the work of an FBI informant, Brandon Darby, who'd been a prominent activist in anarchist circles in Texas and Louisiana. It says and then it goes down further. It goes, Darby, who now works at Breitbart. Oh, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. All right, let's get into this article a little bit. We've covered pretty extensively on this show the dangers of this informant system of the FBI. So an FBI investigation into an alleged terror plot in Southern California bears the familiar hallmarks of the Bureau's long-running use of informants and undercover agents to advance plots that might not otherwise have materialized, court documents show. News of the plot surfaced Monday morning in a Fox News report that ran ahead of court filings or official statements. Within minutes, FBI officials amplified the story on social media. Protect the homeland and crush violent crime, wrote FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, a former podcaster. These words are not slogans, they're the investigative pillars of the FBI. What followed, however, painted a more complicated picture. The limited details available suggest an investigation that leaned heavily on a paid informant and at least one undercover FBI agent, according to an affidavit filed in federal court. The informant and the undercover agent were involved in nearly every stage of the case, including discussions of operational security and transporting members of the group to the site in the Mojave Desert where federal agents ultimately made the arrests. The informant, who has worked other cases on the FBI's payroll since 2021, had been in contact with a group known as the Turtle Island Liberation Front since at least late November, or TILF, or Teacher I'd Like to Fuck, just 2 months after President Donald Trump designated Antifa a domesticated terror organization. I know it's childish, but you're not going to forget the name of this group now. You're going to remember TILF. You're going to be like, oh yeah, Teacher I'd Like to Fuck. You're never going to remember Turtle Island Liberation Front, but you'll remember TILF. I can almost guarantee that. On the morning of December 15th, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the arrest, calling the plot a credible imminent terrorist threat. Yet the case had the familiar markings of FBI terrorism stings that stretch back more than 2 decades. Hundreds of cases that have disproportionately targeted left-wing activists and Muslims, and less often right-wing actors. Oh yeah, less often. Whatever. I'm not going to get too shitty with Trevor Harrison, because he does have this impetus here. He does have this bias, it seems, but whatever. I mean, I'm open to it being on both, but he always seems to be hesitant to buy any right-wing shit here. Since the September 11th attacks, the FBI has relied on informants to identify and build terrorism cases. The structure has created perverse incentives for potential informants. Their cooperation can get them out of criminal cases of their own and lead to handsome monetary compensation. The FBI's call is simple: bring cases, get paid. You guys hear Jeff? Say hi to Jeff. That's him screaming. Rick Smith, a security consultant and former FBI agent, said confidential sources are essential to investigative police work, but cautioned that they come with inherent baggage. Shut up, Jeff. There are sources, they're not ordinary citizens, Smith said. They have either been compromised in some way or they're going to get paid. Either way, they've got some sort of skin in the game. They're getting something out of it. I think Jeff is probably at a door that's closed right now, because that's what he'll do. He'll just stare at a door. He probably thinks one of my daughters is on the other side, and they are not. He's just being an idiot. In the years after 2001 attacks, FBI created a market for cases involving left-wing activists and Muslims. After the January 6th Capitol riot, the Bureau made clear to informants that right-wing extremism was a priority. Now, under the second Trump administration, the federal government's focus is again turning to perceived left-wing extremism. In September, days after the terror designation of Antifa, Trump outlined his administration's war on the left in a memo titled National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, or NSPM 7. Sorry, I don't have a funny or silly acronym rememberer for that one. That one's just hard. NSPM. There's nothing there. Which called for the National Joint Terrorism Task Force to coordinate with local offices to investigate alleged federal crimes by political radicals. The head of the federal prosecutor's office in L.A. said on Monday the Turtle Island Liberation Front arrest stemmed from Trump's executive order. Key questions in the TILF case, however, remain unanswered. It is still unclear how the FBI first identified the group or how long the informant had been embedded before the bomb plot emerged. A period defense attorneys say is central to any serious examination of entrapment, whereby defendants are coerced into crimes they would not otherwise commit, a frequent criticism of stings involving paid informants and undercover agents. The question that immediately popped into my mind was that there's a reference to a confidential human source, but there's no indication of how that source came to be, said Brad Crowder, an activist and union organizer who was convicted in a case of an alleged violent protest plans that involved the confidential informant. It's not totally out of the realm of possibilities that this idea was planted or floated by whoever this confidential human source might be. Despite comments from Bam Bondi, Patel, and others characterizing TILF as a coherent group and a signal chat called Black Lotus as an ultra-radical subset, there's little evidence that any group by that name exists beyond a small digital footprint and a handful of attempts at organizing community events, including a self-defense workshop and a punk rock benefit show planned for February. Instagram for TILF is cited in the complaint. It had just over 1,000 followers as of Tuesday morning. After it was widely publicized, its first post came in late July. The YouTube channel bearing the group's name, which had just 18 subscribers as of Tuesday morning, was registered on July 17th. It contains a single video post since September 16th. Yeah, this doesn't glow at all. Online, the group styled itself as radical and righteous. Its activists spoke in the language of solidarity with Palestinians and indigenous people, railing against U.S. immigration and customs enforcement and American power. On IG, they posted slogans and absolutes. Become a revolutionary. America has always been the brutal evil monster that some of you don't want to face. Resistance is the deepest form of love. The informant did not, however, meet with the group on November 26th for its slogans. According to the affidavit, the informant met up with Audrey Aline Carroll, who went by the nickname Asiganak. All right. At the meeting, Carroll handed over 8 pages covered with handwriting and blue ink. The document was titled Operation Midnight Sun and laid out a plan to detonate backpack bombs at 5 separate locations on New Year's Eve when fireworks would mask the sound of explosions. The plan was unfinished. Beneath the list of targets were blank lines marked, "Add more if enough, comrades." After the following weeks, the plot advanced. According to court filings, a signal group was created for, in the participants' words, everything radical, including the bomb plan itself. On December 7th, the supposed bomb plot expanded to include an undercover FBI agent. At that meeting, Carroll distributed pages describing how to build the bombs. She said she already had 13 PVC pipes cut to size and had ordered 2 5-pound bags of potassium nitrate from Amazon, believing naively that a burner account she set up was keeping her anonymous. Delivery was scheduled for December 11th. The FBI had visibility into nearly every part of the supply chain, chemicals ordered online and pistol primers purchased at a retail store. Agents could have intervened at any stage. They didn't. Instead, the Bureau allowed the plan to continue, with both an informant and an undercover agent actively participating in the conspiracy. On December 12th, the group drove into the desert with the aim of testing the bombs. They took 2 vehicles, the informant in one, the undercover agent in the other. Riding with the undercover agent was Zachary Aaron Page, who went by the nickname AK. He suggested using cigarettes as a delayed fuse. In the other car, Carroll told another member that the desert exercise was a dry run for the New Year's Eve attack. "What we're doing will be considered a terrorist attack," she said, according to the affidavit. At the site, she pitched tents and set up tables. They laid out PVC pipes, charcoal, sulfur, gasoline, string cloth, and protective gear. As they began assembling devices, the FBI moved in. Overhead, an FBI surveillance plane recorded the scene as agents took into custody 4 alleged members of TILF, including Carroll and Page, along with Tina Lai and Dante Gaffield. So, terrorism prosecutions built around confidential informants have long drawn criticism, particularly over the risk of entrapment. For more than a decade, legal scholars have argued that while these cases often resemble classic government inducement, they rarely meet the legal standard for entrapment. Courts define predisposition so broadly that ideological sympathy or recorded rhetoric is treated as evidence of a pre-existing willingness to commit crime, a framework that effectively shields government-manufactured plots from meaningful judicial scrutiny. That concern surfaced starkly in a previous sting operation involving the so-called Newburgh 4, in which an aggressive and prolific FBI informant steered poor black men into a scheme to bomb synagogues and attack an Air Force base. Years later, a federal judge granted the men compassionate release, describing the case as an FBI-orchestrated conspiracy. Because informants can be so instrumental in building cases, their use can be leveraged by authorities to focus resources on investigations with more political undertones or overtones. At times, the right has criticized the political nature of some cases. Among them was the case in which the FBI encouraged a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a sting that the FBI's Patel and Bongino harshly criticized back when they spent their days attached to the microphones of right-wing podcasts. There is a nonpartisan incentive structure that has become overly reliant on these kinds of confidential human forces, says Crowder. Sources. My bad. Crowder knows better than most. In 2008, he and fellow activist David McKay were arrested in charge of plotting to use Molotov cocktails at the RNC in St. Paul, Minnesota. Despite deciding not to follow through with the plan, both ultimately pled guilty, with Crowder sentenced to 2 years in prison and McKay to 4. The case against Crowder and McKay hinged on the work of an FBI informant, Brandon Darby, who had been a prominent activist in anarchist circles in Texas and Louisiana. Crowder and McKay looked up to Darby, viewing him as a mentor and someone they hoped to impress or convince other radical bona fides. In interviews over the years, they've alleged that Darby, who now works at Breitbart, was instrumental to their decision to cross the line from protest to discussing something more violent. Okay, all right, I misunderstood. I don't know if I said it, but at least I was under the impression. I don't know if I overtly said that in the previous tweet, but I was under the impression that this was the informant here. But either way, this is from a different case, this McKay guy, but either way, still interesting. Kind of wild, the fact that this guy was in anarchist circles for a long time, and then he got it seems like he got his identity burned, and now he works at Breitbart. Part of the playbook, Crowder said, is for an informant to exploit their target's righteous anger in the case of TILF, rights violations, Palestine, ICE actions in L.A. From there, authorities take advantage of the alleged plotter's political immaturity, walking hand in hand with them as they cross a line from legal dissident into a legal conspiracy. The informant gets paid, the FBI gets a good headline that justifies their anti-terrorism budget, and the defendants are left to face the consequences, often without ever posing a real threat to public safety. On both sides, you have a sort of momentum that develops, Crowder said. The ICE repression is crazy, and that feeds to a sort of hopelessness that drives a sort of nihilistic response that you see from people who have immature politics, and that heartfelt but immature and irresponsible response plays into the incentive structure of the FBI. But let's move on. Apparently, they caught another one of these. There's a fifth Trantifa militant. I guess that's what they're calling him again. They're really trying to make this happen. I guess these guys were a bunch of troon-looking motherfuckers. Although I don't know where the Trantifa thing is coming from. I don't. Maybe one of these guys are trans. But I will say, just judging by photos here of these people, they fit the bill. They definitely don't look like Chloe, so I'll give them that. So it seems like they actually legit did get a few retards and found an informant to lead them astray. But obviously, I have a strong feeling as this gets fleshed out more, we're going to find out that these guys were more manipulated and probably wasn't as crazy. Like, for example, I've covered the Michigan thing quite a bit, essentially regurgitating most of Radix's work. And those guys were basically never agreed to anything, even the tiniest bit illegal. It was basically almost entirely contrived by the FBI. People, they did the same thing with the images of Mir, and they kind of like, oh, look at them, look, oh, their tattoos and the guns, and oh, look at him, he kind of looks like he was like basically homeless, kind of making them look scummy, and essentially doing the right wing version of what this photo is with these lefties here, where me and you look at these guys and go, like, look at this, a couple of them look like they could be trans. You got a fat guy with a neck tattoo, some brown dude with nappy hair, fat chick, a couple trans-looking people. Yeah, it doesn't look like a group of winners, but I have a strong feeling we'll find out more. These people were probably quite manipulated, but we'll see. Just a little bit of letting you guys know ahead of time. This article, they started off with a headline, Trantifa, so I think we can tell it's a little bit biased. So, does the arrest spotlighting a festering movement, violent leftists entangled gender confusion, plotting to slaughter ICE agents and blow up key sites. As we highlighted, federal authorities swooped in last week, nabbing 4 Southern California militants from TILF while they allegedly headed to the desert to test homemade explosives. The group of far-left Antifa-style cell obsessed with pro-Palestine and anti-government rants aimed to unleash coordinated IED attacks on 5 LA spots during New Year's Eve celebrations. Their propaganda screams for violence, echoing the same unhinged calls that have sparked bloodshed before. Do they? I mean, I think we covered a little bit in the last article, some of the stuff they said. I mean, they had 20 subscribers on YouTube. I mean, I haven't watched the video. Some of the slogans they said weren't that crazy. 1 second. So I don't know, whatever. I mean, that seems a little over the top, but whatever. Maybe there's something to point to. Maybe we'll see in this article. Among the initial arrests, Audrey Elaine Carroll, who goes by the alias Skyman, which is that the same one? How many different aliases does this bitch have? A black bloc regular hinted at the plot months ago in online chats with a DSA activist, boasting that moves against ICE would hit the news. Individual's own mother scrambled online to help finding her, clueless that the feds had already cuffed her daughter. Here's Andy No. Let's look at this real quick. I guess it says one of the. Let me see. Sorry, let me wait for it to load. Let's see. Maybe this backs up some of the I don't know, the strong language they use to characterize these people. So one of the LA communist black bloc militants federally charged of being part of the far left group that allegedly planned New Year's Eve bombings in Southern Cali is Audrey Elaine Carroll, using the alias Skyman. In June, she interacted with DSA activist Winston, suggested that she was planning against ICE would be in the news. In February, she admitted going to direct actions at Black Bloc. Her mother revealed her daughter's alias when she put out a call for help in finding her. The mother didn't know the FBI had arrested her daughter that time. 4 Southern Cali members of TILF were arrested last week. Okay, let's see what he's showing here. So here's a picture of her, and then here is Skyman. And this is, okay, there's Black Red Guard is the original post here. It says, ICE needs to surrender and release the hostages. This is back in June. Tom Riddle says, or you'll do what? And then Skyman says, check the news and you'll see what, LOL. LA is liberating itself. I mean, I don't know. This seems a bit of a reach, but maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I mean, that could just mean generically, but here's more, I guess. Let's see. Here's another one from Sergio Olmos, the original post. It says, protesters are back on the 101 freeway. Here's Skyman says, I love seeing this energy. Keep going. Had to head home myself, but I'll be back out later. Hopefully it's still going. Then Vegan Bird says, be safe if you decide to go. Dress fittingly and covered in bring water. Things can turn around very fast if and when they bring in cops. She says, yeah, I always block up for anything crazy. LOL, I go out to a lot of stuff like this. Okay, I don't know. I guess the block is a reference to the Black Bloc, I think, that one group. I mean, I don't know. Nothing here is still too crazy. And here's the mom. So I'm still trying to find my daughter, Audrey, a.k.a. Skyman. So I guess this is how they're connecting that's actually her alt, is the mom. I mean, nothing here is too crazy so far. So, and they're showing some of the slogans here. I guess that we showed in the or we talked about in the previous article, but now there's here's the visual component of it as well. So peaceful protest will never be enough. Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's kind of implying violence. We are up against fascist colonizers. Okay. There's no morals for us to appeal to, no sense of justice or what's right. We cannot vote ourselves out of a mass colonizer occupation. I also agree with the idea that we can't vote ourselves out of this, but I don't know. I guess nothing here is too overt. I don't know. I mean, this doesn't really seem anything other than normal faggoty lefty bullshit, but I don't know. Whatever. Nothing here too crazy particularly. No added details on Carol's antics. Whatever. We already read all that. The other LA suspects include Zachary Aaron Page, 32-year-old trans-identified individual. Okay, so we got trans in there. Tina Lai, 41. I'm going to assume that was the Asian there. And Dante Garfield, 24. They were caught red-handed en route to bomb testing grounds. Their plans to target ICE locations laid there. But the plot thickened with the fifth arrest in Louisiana. No broke the exclusive. I can exclusively report the fifth unnamed arrest suspect in TILF's New Year's Eve mass bombing terror plot is Trantifa militant Micah James Legnon. So Legnon, now on federal hold in Lafayette, identifies as female and floods social media with rants urging the murder of anyone branded a fascist. Okay, well then, if that's true, then that's definitely more the overt language I was looking for. No noted, Legnon is a trans activist and identifies as a female. His social media is filled with posts calling for the murder of people he labels as fascists. I haven't seen, is there anyone to back that up? I mean, okay. Shockingly, this militant is an ex-Marine and former cop. Proof that even those sworn to protect can spiral into leftist terror after embracing transgender ideology. It's no isolated incident. It's part of a pattern where transgender ideology intersects with violent extremism. Well, if you're PTK pilled, it also might mean something else as well. A former cop and a former Marine. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying every former cop, every former Marine is some fucking, mind wiped or brainwashed fucking killer or something. But I don't know. It might be something to that. Might be something at least worth digging into. Especially, was it a big butterfly in his neck? I don't know. I know some of the Monarch people might think something of that. I don't know. That definitely is getting too schizo. But maybe he's just a fat fucking troon. It could also just be that. Here's a picture of the guy. I haven't seen anything that backs up this idea of him saying shit about murdering people online or anything yet. So I'd be interested in seeing that. So these radicals blend Antifa tactics with gender extremism, resulting in deadly outbursts the legacy media loves to downplay. I mean, I gotta say, so far, they haven't shown me anything that would cause me not to downplay this. It sounds like they're kind of making this trying to force a square thing into a circle. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm open to some of the stuff, coming out and make it a little bit more obvious, but I think maybe they're overstating their case right now, it seems. Really trying to force this narrative real hard. Does Tyler Robinson, the man who allegedly... See, and there's the hook of trying to force. Tyler Robinson, the man who allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk, lived with a transgender partner, adding yet another layer to the web of radical ties. Thomas Crook is also into furries and identifies as they, them. That's funny. And then here's Benny Johnson. They shared a tweet to show him. I wouldn't be surprised if he likes furries as well. It says, flashback to the Nashville Covenant School Massacre, where the trans shooters' leaked manifesto exposed a hatred for white privilege and Christians. Then there's the Iowa school shooting. Okay, so we get where they're going here now. Let me see if there's anything else worthwhile. No, they're just listing all the other ones that they're kind of shoehorning into this to make their narrative, which we've covered all of those in the past. But okay, so a fifth person I don't know. I would have been interested to see if they actually had statements. This guy said some wild shit, but I don't know. Honestly, not a whole lot here. But moving on, finishing off, one last thing. We'll give a little update on what's going on in the Brown University shooting case. We'll check in on the feds, see how their investigation's coming along over there. It looks like they're having quite a productive go at it, since we still don't know who the hell this shooter is. But let's check in on them. Let's see what's going on over there.
You can see them that they're kicking the snow out of the way, methodically looking step by step, looking to see if there's anything in the snow at all that can help point them in the right direction of this investigation. And if you look over across the street, Seth, for those of us just...
All right, so here you see him kicking around snow. I mean, it's funny. I saw in the comments people saying like this is like when someone steals your shit and then helps you look for it, like, which I don't know, it is legit. But you literally just have them kind of kicking at snow here, just kicking snow, which I don't know. To be fair, maybe this is productive, but it is at least a funny look. All right, let's pop in the chat, say hello, and then we'll get into the next topic of the day. Here's Real John Doe. It says, will be interesting to see what role Bongino will play once he's out of the administration. I wonder if he'll jump back online and play controlled op. Yeah, that is interesting. I think I may have actually said it a little bit there. I think he might come in and go full Candace. I think he's going to try to go hard in the paint, throw everything at the wall, just completely put out just crazy slop. He'll probably out Candace, to be honest. Just judging by how his show, from the little bit I know about his show from beforehand, I could totally see him doing that. Here's Tom's. I'm all for any of these figures Leroy Jenkins themselves into revealing literally anything. Unfortunately, I think the Leroy Jenkins, if they do that, will actually be more of a perception thing. They'll give us the idea of their Leroy Jenkins it, and instead they're actually just running cover still. But we'll see. Bongino will let you down, says Real John Doe. Don't worry. Yeah, exactly. Good morning, Chuck Bam. This is breaking news. Mothership UFO over Chicago. Good morning, JC. Good to see you here. Who else we got? Ooh, good morning. Whoop my baby mama ho ass. That's a fun one. Good morning, PJR. Good to see you in here. Good morning, Mr. Eugenics. Good morning, PJR. All right, guys, let's get into the latest in created conflicts and characters. I guess let's check it. I haven't, full disclosure, I didn't watch the latest Candace, and I kind of checked out. I only watched the one before that because that was the one where she was going to recap her meeting with Erica, and so I was kind of genuinely kind of interested. So, but not watching. I'm out. I can't pay attention to this slop anymore. But I don't know. I mean, we'll check it on clips occasionally and see if there's anything interesting. Apparently now we're all concerned about a white SUV. So let's check in on this.
We called something odd that happened on that day involving a white Toyota RAV4. The story goes, obviously everybody's eyes are peeled, looking for anything unusual, looking for the suspect on this manhunt. And there's an officer who catches a speeding car shortly after the shot is fired, and this officer is convinced that this is the killer. I'm going to be in hot pursuit of this killer. The officer pulls over the Toyota RAV4, and when the officer gets to the window, the driver of the RAV4 flashes an FBI badge. I am telling you the exact truth of what was communicated to me, and I would like to confirm the story.
I would like to. We're getting too many of these. I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's hard because it's like if someone does tell you something in confidence, a source, like I do get the idea of like not burning a source, and like I totally get it. If like let's say Tucker Carlson or a congressman or somebody crazy that like I guess you could say is in the know told me some behind the scenes information. It was like. And I didn't want to burn my source because I mean, like, I'd like to be able to do this in the future. I totally understand, like, the desire to be like, oh, someone said this, and like to some degree, I guess you can. I guess it is like as long as you do say sources say, or I have a source, or whatever, however you want to frame it without burning the source. There's nothing particularly wrong with that, but I don't know, man. It just kind of. How many fucking sources say can we get floated out without a fucking goddamn thing otherwise? Like, I don't know, it's just come on. Where? Oh, I'm hoping I can. I don't know. Whatever. I guess to be fair, yes, she could come out in a day or later. You come out later and be like, oh, here's a. But we're supposed to take the trust me, bro, of that someone flagged him. But let's look through this again, because I think the claim was this. What is it? The white car here that's coming. They have a white car. So let's look at like the top left hand, because I guess he's supposed to be jumping down from the roof. So let's watch, see if we can see the car coming. So I see this white SUV right here. I think it's going to come around the parking lot in a second. So they're zooming in on it. Let's watch it move here in a second. So we see, come around, so now we see, which once again, I can't help but mention every time we see this. So, why the fuck don't we see the clip from, when he was laying prone taking the shot? But whatever. Let's keep going. We see him running down, and also keep an eye on the parking lot. So now we see him jumping down, which I guess that bag's far more obvious now, and even reach down to grab it. So, which I think actually that was wasn't that a thing too? Didn't they actually have grainier? This was grainier, and then like for some weird ass reason, like a month or so later, a couple weeks later, like, oh, here's a slightly nicer version, and now we can make out this bag that he had that probably, possibly could have been holding a gun that was obscured by a towel or a bag or something. But anyways, let's keep going. Pay attention to the car. Let's see if we can do something. So boom, car here. Let's see. I guess they say it stops, which does it stop? It doesn't look like it stopped at all to me. It looked like it kept going. But supposedly we're supposed to believe this car that came around seems like a completely unremarkable situation that they flashed a badge. Okay, cool. Prove it. This means nothing. This is just reaching at straws. But all right, and here's another one, another one, which I don't know, I guess maybe not reach at straws. Maybe she does have a source. Maybe it is legit, but I need something. Need a little more than that. I think we've got enough of these sources today, and I think people are getting very, very sick of your bullshit. And I don't know. I mean, whatever. But let's check in on the next crazy Candace moment. I guess we're backpedaling on the 30-06 thing now too. So let's see what trust me, bro, we have here now.
You are going to come apart when I deliver these new facts to you. So,
ooh, you're going to come apart, guys.
Yesterday, I revealed to you that I was told that Andrew Colvett was allegedly flying blind when he tweeted out the conversation that he had with the surgeon. Now, just to jog your memory, how that all came about was me doing the show and saying, oh, I saw the back footage and there was no blood. And then very quickly, which I didn't really understand why he had done this, he tweeted out that long tweet about Superman neck, and he puts this quotation in here, quote, that the surgeon said, quote, absolutely, it should have gone through. Sorry, go back to the last one. Absolutely, the bullet should have gone through, which is very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc. Next up, that quotation continues. It was an absolute miracle that someone else did not get killed. His bone was so healthy, and the density was so impressive that he's like the Man of Steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. And that seems strange for a lot of reasons. First off, HIPAA compliance. Why would he speak to Andrew Colvett? Also, did Andrew Colvett record it? It's a pretty long quotation. Why is it in quotations? Do you remember that verbatim? And I can tell you that it's kind of been a mess since. This is kind of the beginning of everything, right? If we're being honest, that one solitary tweet was the beginning of the, what I would call federal mask slip. It feels like they have been feeding us slop ever since. Well, I now feel comfortable revealing some more information for you, some that I have held on to, but which the people who gave this to me are now insisting that I reveal. Simply put, and I'm going to say allegedly here only because I did not speak directly to Dr. Lee Trotter, but I very much have verified and trust this source. Simply put, never once did Dr. Lee Trotter say that Charlie's neck was stopped. Charlie's neck stopped a 30-06 bullet. It's actually hugely embarrassing for any surgeon to have said something like that. It's hugely embarrassing also because we're being told that, he's violating HIPAA to get this information out there in this very high stress situation. You're actually accusing him of being not a professional on top of also kind of being an idiot. And you can imagine that that's put a lot of undue stress on the surgeon's family, as many of them have been wrongly implicated in a cover-up. Like the absurdity of such a narrative, if you're going to put something out there, there's going to be flack that comes upon the surgeon, the other doctors, the nurses. Are you involved? Did you try to get Charlie Kirk killed? Were you involved in this, in staging this? Why would you say that he ate healthy, right? And there's no doctor or surgeon that would say something like that. So to restate that, the quotation that Andrew Colbert shared on his X feed is not a direct quotation from the surgeon, like at all. Rather, what I was told is that what the surgeon communicated very clearly to Andrew, and yes, it is absolutely true that the surgeon, Dr. Lee Trotter, hunts, so he does have experience with bullets. What he communicated is that it was likely a frangible bullet that was used. Now, for those of you who don't hunt, maybe don't shoot, and you're not familiar with that term, frangible, like what's a frangible bullet? That refers to a specialized ammunition that is designed to disintegrate into powder upon impact with a hard surface. So it essentially reduces the risk of a ricochet. Instead, the bullet fragments, makes it safer for close range training. It's not like the traditional bullets that are created to retain mass. Now, key part there is it eliminates the risk of ricocheting. Well, Andrew also told us that the bullet did ricochet. So what we have here is a conflict of statements. We are told that Andrew Colbert was flying blind, put up this tweet, said that the bullet ricocheted downward into his stomach, whatever. And I am telling you that on the other side of this, we have people who are close to the surgeon who say he said no such thing, and rather he said that it was likely a frangible bullet. What are we to make of that discrepancy?
Well, I think
no say, Padres. But I'm going to move on because there's something else that is compelling and interesting.
Well, I think maybe something we can ask ourselves, as Ed Brad Binkley says here. Says, you said that you were told the surgeon said that it was most likely a frangible bullet, which you described as a bullet that disintegrates into powder upon impact. Do you believe this? If so, is your position now that Charlie was hit with a frangible 30-06? So, because that's something that's been passed around a bunch. People said the frangible 30-06. Now, I will say I am by no means an ammunition expert or anything. I'm just kind of a country yahoo that's shot some guns here and there. Fairly decent shot, but nothing. I'm by no means a gun guy, knowledgeable. But I mean, I've shot 30-06, and I did dig into this a little bit, the idea of frangible doing this, and I very much doubted. It's like if a 30-06 somehow did do this. Did do that. I mean, it would probably have to be some sort of frangible, but even then I find it pretty doubtful. But it's like, I don't know, it does feel like a little bit of a backstepping here, a little bit of a kind of falling in line. Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe she's just being honest here, but it all kind of feels a little funny. But apparently she's also asking for money now. Let's check in on this. Keep in mind, her husband's worth $250,000, so let's check on this.
Of emails to people asking us, what are you doing about security? Can we help you with security? We did actually create, for people who don't want to maybe buy our awesome gear, we have tons of awesome kit that you can get on the website. But if you'd like to just give a gift to support our security and what we're doing, you now have that option. You can go to CandaceOwens.com/support. And these are obviously very serious conversations that we are having, because Charlie just got assassinated in broad daylight, and I feel like everyone is sort of signaling that they want me and Tucker. Like, when you don't want to be name checked with Bibi Netanyahu, and they are just growing increasingly volatile in this rhetoric of what they want done to people who don't stand with Israel. It's very terrifying, but at the same time, I know that it's necessary for people to recognize how greatly evil these Zionists are. Covering up, attacking people for trying to get to the truth.
Okay, all right, yada, 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 yada. Ooh, oh no, they're coming after me. Meanwhile, this bitch is married to, what is he, a lord? I forget it was. She's literally the honorable, what's his name? Farmer? I forget his first name. Whatever, something Farmer. So George? Yeah, George Farmer. The honorable George Farmer, that's her husband. Literally has a title granted to him, as being a proper Englishman. And she is married into that family. He has over $250,000. He's spooked up to the gills. And she's earning buku bucks for anyone who even understands this shit at all. And out here e-begging. So I don't know what the fuck this is all about. But to be fair, I guess we're all kind of e-begging here. But it just kind of comes off as this security. Like, come on. I guess to be fair, like, hey, if you find it value of the show, contribute. But trying to make some appeal to security because I can't afford security comes off a little wild to me. But here's Yashir Ali telling us apparently Candace Owens' fan base is angry. I did not look at the comments, but if you go look at not this episode, but the previous episode where she talked about the Erica Kirk one, go through these comments, and the top comments on there is like everyone just fucking pissed. I know we covered a little bit yesterday. I don't feel like I'd recommend actually perhaps for you guys. I mean, I guess I don't want to give her any more money with these by sending views her way, but I'd recommend watching that one because I think if you, especially my audience, if you have tend to have a similar frame of mind to me, you watch it, you'll be like, oh shit, some of this stuff seems, I don't know, maybe somehow it's all on the up and up. There's all like ways I can explain out all this stuff, but once you get enough dots, you get a pattern. You're like, oh, okay. But yeah, you can see these. You see transparencies never found in private meetings. That's where deals are made. Someone else saying, I think I just realized we, the people, will never be allowed to no. That's 22,000 likes. We got so proud of everyone in the comments. This is nasty work to meet privately, 5.2 thousand. We got 8.7 thousand likes in the comments saying if you haven't been gaslit before, this is what it feels like. Confusing, draining, nauseating. Someone says, my advice is put the phones down and go outside. These people can't be trusted. 16,000. We got 12,000. Crawling back into my cave. Thought we almost had a real one. We got 9.6. We learned nothing. Absolutely nothing. We got 11,000. Being private was a serious mistake in judgment that people know something is off and we're not here for it. Get 17,000. It's a big club and we're not in it. 7.4 thousand. Says, I hate to say it, Candace, but you sound like a kid who just came out to the principal's office, is now casually shrugging and telling her friends outside it was no big deal. We got 8.5 thousand. If they're still gathering evidence 3 months later, why did they destroy the crime scene within days of the incident? Which, yeah, okay, that one's not shitting on her. 9.3K. The best part of this episode is the comments as they validate my deflation. 5.8K. I think this private meeting is going to cast Candace a lot. We talked about this quite a bit with Dana the other day. I do kind of think perhaps there's something to that. Some of the digging that was going on there. Apparently, the super chats on her channel have been a lot of them calling out, "Hey, what's up with the Candy Hook thing? Candy Hook, Candy Hook." And some of the other stuff out there, some of the other things that the smears, I guess you could say, that have been going about that seem to be truthful because she did slap down some smears, ones that I hadn't even fucking heard of. Meanwhile, not addressing the ones that all the people are super chatting, all the people are commenting on. Not all, obviously, but a lot of people. Hell, we even showed on this show that Ian Carroll got super chatted $150, read it on his channel about her being Candy Hook, and still nothing. So I think perhaps I am still of the opinion. I think that the vibe was to go for a Candy Hook Part 2. I guess it would be Candy Hook Part 2, Sandy Hook or part Candy Hook Part 1, Sandy Hook Part 2. Essentially, going so hard in the paint that you make a topic verboten, no longer able to talk about it. But I think perhaps that may have changed direction due to the facts on the ground. Not that I really think there is some real actual beef between these two entities. More and more, it's seeming like the big club thesis never fails, and kind of buttressing this point. Here's a crazy drop, on created characters and conflicts. Here's a crazy drop from George Clooney on the Drew Barrymore show. Just kind of how these actors are, that's what these are. These feds are actors. Let's watch this.
The origin story is so fascinating for how people become who they are. And in walks Amal.
Yeah.
The most awake, smart. What did you think when you met her?
Well, it's funny. She came to the house in Como with a friend of hers to visit. And immediately I was like, but the funniest thing is, Brian Lord, my agent, called me. I just met Amal and some other thing, and she said, yeah, I'm going to go to Como with a friend of mine. And he said, and he called me up and he said, there's a girl coming to your house that you're going to marry. And I was like, you're an idiot. That's not going to happen. And then in comes Amal. And we stayed up all night talking, and then I started writing her.
You wrote her?
A bunch of letters.
Like on pen and paper?
Yeah. We still write letters.
You still write letters?
We leave them on the pillow. This is not working out at all, this interview.
But that's romance. So
and then I went to London. She was living in London, and I went to London to score a movie. And I thought, if you're ever going to impress anybody, it's at Abbey Road with the 150-piece orchestra there. And I called her up and said, you want to come see a visit over at Abbey Road? And she's like, yeah, I'm at a meeting at the Muslim Brotherhood right now, and I'll come right over, because she was in the middle of trying to redo a constitution for Egyptians. Her life and my life are very different, I'll say that.
So, okay, just casually dropped on the Drew Barrymore show that George Clooney's now wife helped draft the constitution of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood in 2012 after the revolution. Just, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I mean, maybe, to be fair, I haven't looked into her. Maybe she's on. Just, that's wild that this is the sort of stuff. Keep in mind, George Clooney was buddies with Obama, very connected. Just as something, I don't know, something to be aware of how these people move about, and I think perhaps relevant and maybe a little bit connected in theme. Here's Tucker Carlson dropping some possible incoming news yesterday. A little spoiler alert: it didn't happen, but we'll get into that.
Is Trump going to start a war in Venezuela?
I don't know. I don't know when this program airs. The one that we're on right now. This thing's maybe live.
We're live now, and then
okay.
it'll be posted immediately. So now,
my sense is, I don't know the answer. I've certainly been on the phone a lot about it. I have no power. I'm a podcaster, but I'm very interested. And so here's what I know so far, which is that members of Congress were briefed yesterday that a war is coming, and it'll be announced in the address to the nation tonight at 9:00 by the president. Who knows, by the way, if that will actually happen? I don't know. And I never want to overstate what I know, which is pretty limited in general. But a member of Congress told me that this morning.
Okay, so we had Tucker saying a member of Congress told him that yesterday that town, I don't know what we call it, would address the nation or whatever that Trump did, that he was going to announce war with Venezuela. Well. Here's antiwar.com, says Trump doesn't mention Venezuela war plans in evening address. Says Trump did not address plans for war with Venezuela during an evening address he gave on Wednesday. Earlier, antiwar.com had reported, citing a high-placed source on Capitol Hill. I'd be interested if it's the same source, although I doubt Dave is going to burn his source there for understandable reasons, that he would announce plans for military action against the country. The address focused on criticism of the Biden administration and claims about the economy under the current administration. It came a day after he announced a total and complete blockade on sanctioned tankers going into and out of Venezuela, which came after U.S. forces boarded and seized a tanker carrying Venezuelan oil. The Trump administration has made clear that its goal is to oust Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. But yeah, yada, yada, yada. It's just going on about how, the other stuff that we cover frequently on the show. But you get the idea. It didn't happen. Nothing happened. Here's Nick Fuentes going, well, so Tucker lied. I mean, to be fair, I don't know. I think there's a whole lot of other explanations for this sort of thing. For example, here's a couple other created characters, Posobiec and Bannon speaking on this. Let's hear their explanation for it. Now, of course, audio's out. Give me a minute. Give me a second. Bringing it right back. Here we go, and we are back. Let's see what Bannon and Posobiec have to say.
Well, Steve, I first have to say I really appreciate the White House's ability to run an information operation on so much of social media, putting all this information out there, sort of these strategic leaks to make people think that this was going to be some kind of speech about Venezuela, to make them think there was going to be some sort of, attack going on. This is about to come down. When ultimately, many of us who have close sources to the White House, and I was at the White House earlier this afternoon, were told that it was going to be an end-of-year speech focusing on what the policies were that worked this year, announcing some new initiatives, and then a look ahead to next year. And that was always going to be and always meant to be the main thrust of the speech, and that's exactly what it was. But there was this clearly a disinformation information operation run, and I think a lot of people, I think, what'd you say, Steve? They got some bad info. I think they're realizing that they got some bad info.
So, all right, so they're making it out like the White House played them, which perhaps they did. I have no idea. I find it interesting that clearly information's being seeded out. I find it hard to believe. I know people say maybe plans changed, and perhaps they did. I mean, but this got announced like 24 hours prior to the speech. That it was going to happen. He made a big deal about it. We kind of like, more, just kind of making a big deal of it, and then nothing was said. So I do find it pretty wild that this is being out there said. It seems like somebody is lying. I have a hard time believing that this is just an honest mistake. I mean, obviously there are people along the path that Tucker could have made an honest mistake, but at the very least, I think his source or maybe whoever the source got the information from did not make an honest mistake, and it was just a flagrant bullshit. But I know there's also there's other explanations for this as well that can be a little bit more of a jaded, cynical reason. Perhaps it's just money. We're in this odd era of everything can be bet on. Here's Zero Hedge actually saying, if Tucker is right, this is an easy 10% pick, referring to whatever the hell this is. Some, we see source Polymarket, so which is Polymarket, the betting market, yada yada. So people are literally betting on these things. It's like, what will Trump say during the address at December 17? So, this is literally insider. This could just legit be boosting money type stuff. This could be literal money laundering in front of our faces, pulling these. We are in this time where they can monetize these sort of things. Not only do they, boost their ratings, but they also send out signals to the world that, hey, this is going to happen. And now the betting markets come in place. We are in an odd time where Kalshi is partnering up with CNN to make everything like analysis based and betting based. And this is, I think, a perfect example of how this can work out. Obviously, we have no idea. This could be intel, disinformation, yada, 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 trying to cause the enemy to be thrown off or whatever. Or it could just literally be cynical, straight up money. But kind of moving back a little bit to the drug war and kind of created conflicts. Here is a story from Max Blumenthal about a CIA asset, a former DA official who was busted with $12 million scheme to launder cash for the Mexico cartel. Which, if we cared at all about the drug war and are willing to kill people over it, they would make far more sense to do that. Not that I want them to, than to be randomly blowing up boats in Venezuela. Let's watch this. Damn it, audio's out again. Fucking StreamYard. Give me a second. Here we go. I really thought it would still be good. Here we go. We're back.
The house of Paul Campo, which was raided last Thursday by federal agents following an indictment from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. Campo is alleged to have participated in a $12 million scheme to assist the Jalisco cartel of Mexico acquire fentanyl production capacity, as well as weaponized drones, explosives. And Campo happens to be the former Drug Enforcement Agency Deputy Director for Finance. So this is a pretty significant bust. But even more significant is the fact that his partner in this alleged scheme, Robert Sensei, is a veteran CIA operative whose involvement in CIA schemes goes all the way back to Reagan's October surprise, who has participated in multi-million-dollar frauds to allegedly, apparently, purchase military-grade helicopters for a certain Middle East country. And so here we are in a white-collar suburb where high crimes are being carried out to assist drug cartels in Mexico. And yet Donald Trump and his administration are killing people in speedboats all the way in Venezuela in a phony drug war, while our chickens are coming home to roost with a CIA asset just last week shooting 2 National Guardsmen, a former CIA asset in a Afghan death squad supporting the United States. So can we really wage a war on drugs when the CIA and DEA at the highest level are directly involved in it? And is it any wonder that the CIA is sometimes referred to as the cocaine import agency? Who's really poisoning our people?
CIA, tale as old as time. And going even further into this, digging a little bit deeper, here's RJ Moru at Toxic Tiramisu, who is criminally underfollowed. You definitely should go give him a follow. One of my favorite accounts, because what he mostly does is kind of just finds excerpts from books and articles and stuff, and posts these sort of things that we're about to go through just now. Here he says, CIA/DEA trained death squads across Latin America became major narco traffickers. In Argentina, Lopez Rega's AAA ran a cocaine ring. In Brazil, U.S. trained Operação Bandeirantes served heroin networks. In Chile, Pinochet placed national cocaine trade under his secret police, DINA. And what he's actually quote tweeting here is, under Nixon, HW ran death squads disguised as drug enforcement using CIA operatives and Cuban exiles. They kidnapped and killed political enemies. ODALE at home and DEASOG abroad carried out raids, beatings, and murders. The White House, CIA, and DEA became a syndicate protecting drug traffickers. But let's read a little bit deeper into that first drop about the death squads in Latin America becoming major narco traffickers, because kind of looks like that's what we're seeing now. It's almost like we create these problems so that we can come back 50 years later to have an excuse to do something. But let's read through this. It says assassination, it can be argued, became a modus operandi under Richard Nixon. The CIA carried out assassination and extermination campaigns in Vietnam, Guatemala, Argentina, and Brazil, aided in Latin America by the local death squads. The White House appears to have sponsored a secret assassination program under cover of drug enforcement. It was continued by the DEA, which seemingly overlapped with the CIA, in particular in political rather than drug enforcement. Until 1974, the training of torturers and members of Latin American death squads came under the auspices of the CIA and USAID's Office of Public Safety. Some 100,000 Brazilian policemen, for example, were trained, and 523 of them were chosen for courses in the USA. They were trained at the International Police Academy in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., and at a secret CIA center in the same city on R Street, under cover of International Police Services Incorporated. When school was out, the prize pupils returned home to work beside CIA advisors as functionaries or torturers in such effective repression apparatuses as Sao Paulo's Operação Bandeirantes. Many would moonlight with the death squads. Moving on, here's another excerpt. I don't know if it's from the same one. It says, after Tupamaro's guerrillas kidnapped and killed U.S. police advisor Dan Mitrione in Uruguay, Washington schools for foreign police came to the limelight and Congress cut off their funding. Nonetheless, the training program and direct assistance and supervision continued. For those who don't know about Dan Mitrione, that is an interesting story. I'm pretty sure he was like one of the CIA's essentially he was one of the CIA's torture guys, that he was like kind of going around and training torture. And then ironically, he got abducted by somebody in Uruguay, or by the Tupamaros guerrillas, and he kidnapped and tortured and killed. So while I would never really advocate for anyone being tortured and killed, I mean, it couldn't happen to a better person. Nonetheless, the training program and direct assistance and supervision continued. A 1976 investigation authorized by Senator James Aberezk revealed the U.S. torture academies had not, in fact, been completely closed down. According to Jack Anderson, Aberezk found such a school has been in operation since 1974 in Los Fresnos, Texas, at the site of a former bomb school. Another journalist, William Hoffman, later confirmed the existence of a school for torture in Los Fresnos, which had since moved to Georgia, where it was known as a law enforcement training center. Interestingly, Conin's friend Werbel, which that's another interesting character, crazy, glowy, and weird, satanic. I think he was like, oh God, was he like poisoned by like some satanic cult? It was, he's an odd, that's a crazy fucking rabbit hole. We've talked about him many times on Already Dead. But anyways, the friend Werbel runs his own large training center in Georgia, the Farm. It's used for, among other things, the training of law enforcement officers. Much of the old police support apparatus was simply transferred to AID's International Narcotics Control Program, which really spelled DEA. In 1974, the DEA had some 400 agents in Latin America, or roughly the number of advisors recalled from the OPS program. INC's budget for technical equipment abroad, meanwhile, jumped from $2.2 million in 1973 to $12.5 million in 1974. Makes you wonder what it's at now. All right, on to another excerpt here. The politics of the new drug effort were exposed when, in 1974, the man behind Argentina's death squad, the Argentine Anti-Communist Alliance, Social Minister Lopez Rega, appeared on TV with U.S. Ambassador Robert C. Hill to publicize the two nations' anti-narcotics collaboration with the words, "Guerrillas are the main users of drugs in Argentina. Therefore, the anti-drug campaign will automatically be an anti-guerrilla campaign as well." It's striking how close the various extermination and repression campaigns have been to the narcotics traffic. The Mayo Army, deployed by the CIA in Laos, smuggled large quantities of opium. Lopez Rega and his Argentine AAA henchmen were eventually exposed as keys to a cocaine ring. One of the chief AAA hatchet men, Francois Chiappe, was a lieutenant in the Rickard/David heroin network. Paraguay's most ruthless high-ranking officers were exposed as heroin profiteers. Christian David took part in extermination campaigns in Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay. Operaco Barante's chief, Sergio Fleury, and several of his colleagues pocketed large protection payoffs. Fleury's number 2 man in the Sao Paulo death squad, Ademar Augusto de Oliveira, alias Finino, fled to Paraguay after he's charged with murder. There, under the name Irino Bruno de Silva, he worked for the Record Gang. When David's successor, the Brazilian narcotics dealer Milton Concalves Tiago, alias Cabeceo, the Brain, was arrested in 1975. It was learned that he'd been paying off the entire Rio de Janeiro death squad, which include 4 narcotics police lieutenants. And finally, as we go to press, we learned the dictator Pinochet assumed control of Chile's cocaine trade, then turned it over to his secret police, DINA, which shared the profits with his Cuban exile. The henchmen, which is funny, I don't even think I saw even mention of, I don't even think we saw a mention of Venezuela in there, which is ironic. So it's like maybe they're one of the few states that's not as bad as some of the other ones, which is, or maybe it's as bad. I don't know. But either way, at the very least, the hypocrisy is off the charts, and makes you kind of think perhaps maybe they might be a little bit responsible for the problem in the first place. All right, guys, we're done for today. Let's roll through the chat, say our goodbyes, see what all you guys got to say, and then we'll get out of here. Here's Marnimac saying need a lot more than that. A car driving and slowing down to make it around a turn is literally nothing. Exactly. Aggressively Greek says, Cadence and I have the same source. He's totally legit. He only does meth on the weekends. Here's John Doe says, the days of trust me, bro, are long over. Here's John Black says, I don't trust a shit, Boone, and I don't give a fuck about anything she has to say. Exactly. Good morning, Alien Big Cat. I think it's the first I've seen you here. Gottis says a car thing is nothing, but adding the soundtrack you'd hear in the first 48 makes it all laughable. Exactly. Supporter security, LOL. Morning shadows in the cornfield. Good to see you here. Says ballistics turns into totally different science during high-profile assassinations, doesn't it? Yup. Wambaba, who the fuck is dumb enough to give this bitch money? In all honesty, I'll admit I did once, and I did tell you guys this a long time ago. Back, it was almost like a year ago. This is when she first broke from the Daily Wire. I did send over, but I did send some money and sent her over, a voice or a text message. This is when she seemed a little bit more legit. I mean, I very much was skeptical of her because, anyone of that side, but like, hey, it was worthwhile. And my reasoning was like, it was Patreon money. So it was like for you guys trying to boost the message type thing. I did try to send her down the McVeigh rabbit hole, and we did cover in the show. She sent back a voice message for that, so she seemed pretty interested in it. But she got distracted about the fact that that French lady's got a dick or something. So I guess that was super important, as opposed to actually digging into substantive conspiracies that affect our days, our current reality. I don't know. Although I guess to be fair, there is something too that like if there are world leaders that are actually sporting the opposite genitalia of what they claim, it does make you wonder some stuff, and I guess that is kind of interesting. But I don't know. It did seem a little like, all right, well, we're all in the Sabbatean stuff, and the French lady having a dick. Don't get me wrong. I find those both interesting theories, but you're like, where's the obviously substantive stuff that is still interesting as well. I find the OKC stuff crazy interesting, and so like. I don't know. She could have jumped on the Yiki train and probably she could have cranked out some slop, and it still could have been interesting and done some good, but whatever. Here's Real John Doe. Says, not to beat a dead horse, but 100 yards I've punched through a 3/8-inch stainless steel plate like butter with a 30-6, but go on. Yeah, I still struggle to believe even a frangible. Like, as a frangible, though, like the idea of the frangible is it disperses. So, like, yes, theoretically you could, but then like I think you would just have like shards of bullet all in there, and if anything, I'm maybe talking a little about my ass here, but I would actually think like that would make either the entry or exit even bigger, because you're essentially creating like now the ammo's the energy is dispersing. Like the energy doesn't just go nowhere; it's either going to go through or disperse in the body. So like, and if you're telling me like, okay, well we're going to explain this as like, well the thing breaks on impact. Like, oh, well, it still has energy. It still has mass. The mass is being broken up into smaller pieces, but it still is the same mass. So you would think that it's like, if anything, you would think a frangible would probably cause an even worse fucking like a cavity or something like that. Maybe not on impact, but maybe on exit, or at least, well, I guess it's not exiting. But the point being is, it would do some crazy damage. Like I would think, like if your theory is that it hit bone and then disintegrated, like the energy doesn't just go away. So it's just like it's going to basically kind of make like an explosion. I would think, I guess, not technically explosion, but the gun guys get what I mean. Like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm talking out my ass. I don't feel like the frangible really gives it really that much more explanation. I don't know if any gun guys in there in the chat. Feel free to, if I'm being retarded, feel free to chime in and add something to that. PJR says, let's see what Ian Carroll, the TikTok journalist, has to say. Martin X says our audience needs to come with terms that none of these people are real ones. They'll be much more content in life. Yeah, you're gonna find much more real ones in the like probably sub 20 10K type sub area. So, but whatever. I don't know. One of these days they'll learn. One of these days we'll learn. All right, let's keep going. What else we got in here? Shadows in cornfield. Gas is going down, which usually indicates economic weakness, especially when interest rates are being cut. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see gas coming down, but it's like, oh, you guys are just probably releasing the fuck out of the reserves because you guys know you're in a weak spot and you need to make things look good. When everything else is up but gas is down, it is like, oh, fuck, this is sketchy. Sketchy. Martin Max says, Jack needs to get out of Trump's asshole. Good morning, Stall. Says, yeah, Candace is shady. Morning. Let me see who else. Any other chats? Let me see. You guys are chit-chatting back and forth in here. Here's Tom33. So I think she's genuine, but genuinely retarded. Perhaps that would have some explanatory power, but perhaps not. I don't know. Here's Tom33. Says, Jose, you paid her to boost the subject you're biggest on. That's using her correctly. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just had to be honest with all the shitting on her. People are giving her money. I was like, well, I sent her over some change to get her talk on this, hoping that she would take that as like a, I don't know, a signal to get into that or plant a seed or something. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe now that the cards are down, she'll actually do something substantive. We'll see. Here's Dave. Good morning. I think it's the first time I'm seeing it here. It says Oasis wouldn't exist as we know it without the fall. A lot of styles of music, for that matter. What are you talking about? Okay, Oasis is a nice band, I guess. Was it Wonderwall or what the fuck is the song they do? I only know like one of their songs. Here's RB Baller. He says, what do you mean maybe the drugs come from Venezuela? Do not check or verify anything. The DA's own fucking stats say drugs don't come from Venezuela. Only 3% at best. But Bolivia and Mexico is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're talking to me or the guy or somebody I was reading off, but yeah, I don't know the stats offhand, but I know I've covered this stuff enough to like all the DA, all the actual like official government information is like backs up, flies in the face of what they're trying to do. Like I don't know them offhand, but yeah. They don't come from Venezuela. But at the same time, I also don't necessarily trust government numbers. So it's like, I don't know, whatever. That's why I don't necessarily reference them to them. But yes, that is according to themselves. it doesn't make sense what they're doing. Here's Tom. Says Charlie was not shot with 30-06. I don't care who shot him. The rifle they're claiming is not what killed him. Yeah, I struggle to believe that as well. I mean, I know it's funny. Everyone goes like, well, why would they put a 30-aught? Why would they put the caliber so wrong if this was I don't know. There's a number of reasons. For one, the old 2 + 2 = 5. They're like, you got to get them to swallow a big lie, so they'll swallow the rest. And once you gaslight them enough, you can kind of get them to buy anything. You also got obfuscation. Like, let's say the feds, or maybe not even the feds. Let's say it's some trans Tifa terrorist group or whatever. And let's say they know that they're going to be tailed, that they plant a gun that's not the gun. Now this kind of prevents, at least reduces the search for the murder weapon since people may think they already have it. Let's say it was one of those exotic things or something, or a palm gun or something like that. It would make sense to plant something that's a little bit more believable. That way you're like, people are no longer looking for the exotic thing while you cover your tracks in other ways. So there's all sorts of reasons, but yeah, I do struggle to buy the 30-06. So let me see. Yeah, Barbie Baller said the stats is all Mexico and Bolivia. Yeah, you're correct. Yep. Shadow says JFK brains looked to have shot 30 feet up in the air, and that was a weaker rifle. Yep. Wonderwall is a banger, says Martin Mac. Yep. Let me see. All right, I guess let's get out of here. I think we've caught up on the chat. Appreciate all of you guys. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out. I got a couple funny outros for you that I think you guys might get a kick out of. But for those who dig this show, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment. And give me money because security, and I'm really worried about Israel. I talk about Netanyahu a lot, and like you never know. Like I got windows over here, got windows over there. You never know when an Israeli sniper is going to pop out of nowhere. So like, I mean, if you don't have money, I get it. You know, it's tough times, but like, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well, at TerraGangJose. So help me boost it out. But yeah, I need that security, guys. I really need security. You never know when Israel's gonna come after me. So you never know, guys. So be sure to go up. There's a QR code right there. I'm fucking up. Patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. Here's PJR. Someone needs to pay to protect Jose's cats. Yeah. I can't be here all the time. You never know when an Israeli hitman could come in here and come get my cats. You never know, and they're my loved ones. They're like my little children. We got thumbs up for Jose's safety. Hit that like button if you don't want me to die. Otherwise, you're evil, and I think you should be charged with an anti-Jose hate crime. But yeah, support the show over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020, the best way you can with money. At there, you get a whole host of perks. I mean, I know I'm goofing, but I do try to make it worth your while. If you do enjoy the show, I think it is worth. I got like 4 paywalled things behind the paywall right now. I do about 1 to 2 a week behind the paywall. Keep about 4 at any given time is the goal. So that's weeks of paywalled content. I typically only release 1 to 2 episodes per week. So yeah, you're weeks ahead of the poors at that point. You also get access to the ad-free RSS feed, so you can listen on audio without having to deal with those pesky ads. And you can also go to the Telegram, which I really enjoy that community, fun group of people. That's where the episode that I'm going to drop tomorrow. It's where I got shoot the shit with Tilla in there. And we have that episode me and him did that'll probably drop tomorrow. But it's a fun place, fun time. I enjoy it. You can get some deep anti-J lore in there. We have a whole tab of that. It's wonderful. And if you want to support the show, and you also get the pre-show, the post-show, and the video calls from me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And I give a big shout out to my sponsors, which is the highest level of my Patreon. It's a big thank you for their support. My previous codes and Tower Gang, at Learn to Toad, also at @EvergateDs, at ZLVRCK, at _VinceZeal, Tim Tell, at Jolly Klebo, big fan of the show, Tormay, at Wayne Tackless, One Hair Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. All right, guys, I do have, I think, a couple funny outros for you guys that you think you'll like. I got 2 of them. The first one is, I know I've seen a lot of people in the chat going on about, like, Jose, you need to get a haircut. Jose, you need to shave. Jose, you should stop wearing. You stop having your shirt out all the time. Like I can't pay attention. I like it's hard to focus on any of the things you're saying when your rippling muscles are in my face. I just can't help it. Like, be decent. Stop showing off so much nudity. Things like that. Like, stop looking like a bum. Maybe put on a suit. Become a fruitcake that has cat boyfriends and stuff like that. But so like with that, you guys are a little bit right. A haircut, a shave. These are a proper, a nice suit. These can really change a man. And here's a beautiful example of just that. I think you guys will enjoy this. See how nice he cleaned up? All right, one more for you guys. This is kind of funny. Everyone's been mean to fucking Bobby Lee recently, by the way. I'm not one who's like really into any of these podcasts, these comedy podcasts, but every now and then I do see, I don't know what it is. Everyone's so mean to Bobby Lee, and he seems like the nicest guy. I mean, he seemed like super crazy degenerate and probably should maybe seek some help. I mean, I don't really know, but the little bit I know about him, but people are really mean to him, and he seems like a really nice guy. But let's check in the latest, because you'll see exactly what I mean. But at least this is a hilarious example of exactly what I'm talking about. But we'll see you guys next week. We should be getting some Epstein news, I think, tomorrow. I kind of wish I was doing a dump tomorrow, but I think the Epstein stuff probably won't drop until the afternoon anyways, because, I mean, let's be real. The following week is... God, why am I brain fart? The following week is Christmas break, so I'm sure the media will die down a little bit then. And it's the tried and true trick of anything that the establishment doesn't really want to proliferate far and wide, they will drop on a Friday evening. So that's exactly what I expect. The final day is Friday, so it's probably the information will probably drop Friday evening, if it even drops. So I'm sure we'll be covering that next week. I know Monday, Tuesday. I'm not entirely sure what days I'm working, if I'm picking up any shifts next week, but keep an eye out. I'm sure we'll be breaking all that down. I'm sure we'll have a ton of news to go over. But yeah, we'll see you guys. Obviously next week will probably be a weird week too with Christmas, so probably only be a few dumps, but hit the like, do all the things. We'll see you next time.
Bursts into tears. My mom died 2 days ago. She's the biggest Bad Friends fan.
Was.
I'm just
saying.
Sorry. I'll do it again.
Thank you. I'm not wrong. I'm just telling you what the verbiage was wrong.
Bursts into tears.